Chapter 230. Originally, they were preparing for battle, but when they heard the whistle, they tensed up again. Then came the cry of an eagle, which made everyone a little bewildered. But soon, everyone was sure, because they saw the leader and the shaman, as well as the group of people behind the leader, rushing straight to the riverbank. Could it be, Fu Shi, who was patrolling, was surprised. "Brother, I have something to do, so I'll leave for a while," Fu Shi said to the people next to him, and then ran to the riverbank. Chen Jia, who was left at home, was secretly sharpening his knife. After hearing the eagle cry, he didn't even have time to hide his knife, and rushed to the riverbank with it. He was so familiar with the eagle cry, because he often heard it. Fan Mu, the chief, and the others, kept looking for the eagle in the sky, and then followed him to the riverbank. "It's Xiao Xian," Fan Mu said happily. He didn't expect that Xiao Xian would come. He could ask Xiao Xian if he could ask the Yanjiao tribe to come and help. Chief, look." The people next to him elbowed Fan Mu. Because he was too excited, he didn't control his strength well. Usually, he wouldn't dare to do this, but at this time, he didn't care. Fan Mu was about to ask, but when he looked down and saw the situation on the river, he suddenly opened his eyes wide. Not only Fan Mu, but also everyone who came to see the scene in front of them were stunned. On the surface of the river in the distance, many boats were approaching this place. Although they couldn't compare with some boats of the longboat tribe, for the people of the drumming tribe, these were the biggest and best boats they had ever seen, especially the three in the front. "Is that the longboat tribe?" This was the first thought that came to the people who saw the fleet. "No, it's not. That's the Yanjiao tribe," the people next to him shouted, and their voices were trembling with excitement. Although the boats were still a little far away, people with good eyesight could vaguely see the patterns painted on the sails, which were like the totem patterns of the Yanjiao tribe they had seen in Xiao Xian's place. The Yanjiao tribe. It was said that Xiao Xian had a good relationship with the Yanjiao tribe. Did the Yanjiao tribe get the news and come to help? If so, it would be great. When the people around them were avoiding them like the plague, when they thought that they would have to face the attacks from all sides alone, when they were planning to suffer the greatest loss, a helper came. How great was this news? On the other side, the people on the boat, they were getting closer and closer. "We're finally reaching the shore. Are they people of the drumming tribe? Are they all coming to welcome us? So many people. Tua, can you help me check if the horns on my head are crooked? Didn't they said there were crocodiles? Where are the crocodiles? Where are the crocodiles? Cha-cha, cha-cha, ao, aos, ao. Aos, ao, tribe, aos as ao tribes, ao, and ao. Ao. Was, after all, of ao, b, ao, of the, ao. This was, ao. He was trying to maintain a dignified image of a leader, but he was sweating too much because he wiped his palms on his animal skin coat from time to time. The shaman kept a standard shaman smile and looked calm. If people didn't know him well, they would think that the old man was very calm. Cha-cha, who flew over first, hovered in the air for a while. He didn't land until the chief and the shaman of the drumming tribe arrived. When he was close to the ground, Xiao Xian loosened his hand holding the eagle's claw and landed on the ground, standing steadily. "Everyone, long time no see." Xiao Xian looked at the people of the drumming tribe and smiled. Xiao Xian, you've grown taller. Are you here to help? Xiao Xian, are the people behind you from your tribe? Fan Mu pushed aside the people squeezing forward, suppressed the excitement and joy in his heart, and said to Xiao Xian, "Long time no see. Welcome to the drumming tribe again. Well, our tribe is going back to the old haunt this time, so we need to pass through your tribe. Sorry to bother you." Xiao Xian said. In the drumming tribe, there were several tributaries flowing to the river, one of which was relatively wide. Now the river level hadn't dropped much, so boats could go in from there. No problem. Fan Mu agreed without hesitation, but glanced at the shaman, and then said to Xiao Xian, "I'll meet them in person." Xiao Xian noticed the conversation between the two leaders of the drumming tribe and knew that there was something hidden in it. Thinking that it was close to the harvest time of the water moonstones of the drumming tribe, he guessed that it was related to this matter. After talking with Fan Mu, Xiao Xian returned to the boat again and told the shaman and Ao about Fan Mu's reply and his guess. "If it's just the invasion and robbery you mentioned, it's okay to help them. After all, they have helped you and Yen Ji. This is the first tribe we've seen. As you said, Xian, since we should have friendly exchanges and help each other, we should help them when they are in trouble." Ao said. "Indeed." The shaman said, "The Yinjiao tribe shouldn't be silent." Ao smiled, looked at the approaching shore, and said, "Then let's take this as the first whetstone for our Yinjiao tribe after we return." The fleet sailed towards the tributary of the drumming tribe, and the people on the shore also gathered there. The people of the drumming tribe were ecstatic when they saw Xiao Xian and the Yinjiao tribe at the beginning, and laughed out loud. But as the fleet got closer and closer, they gradually quieted down. When the fleet got closer, the people of the drumming tribe were stunned when they saw the well-dressed people on the ships. The people of the Yinjiao tribe were dressed a little too gorgeously. On such a hot day, they wore thick animal skins. Didn't they feel hot? But the skin looked really good. It was oily and smooth. They would definitely keep warm in winter. They wondered how many water moonstones they could exchange for it. And those people were wearing necklaces made of animal teeth. Damn, look at those animal teeth. What kind of beast did that belong to? Did a beast have such big teeth? The ships of the Yinjiao tribe sailed from the river to the tributary, and then docked on the shore. The people of the two tribes could see each other clearly. In fact, the people of the Yinjiao tribe were also excited. But when they saw that the chief was so serious, they also became serious. Following the chief was the right thing to do. The people of the Yinjiao tribe were as serious as when dealing with ferocious beasts. Therefore, a murderous aura spread out. A gust of wind blew. Fu Shi shivered and scratched his arm. He whispered to the people next to him, "Why do I feel a little?" He didn't say the word scared. The others had the same feeling as him. Originally, they thought that the people of their own tribe were domineering enough. But today, when they saw the people of the Yinjiao tribe, they suddenly felt that there was always someone better than them. They looked so tough. Even Xiao Xian didn't look like that. Is this really a small tribe?" Someone asked in a low voice. If they only looked at the number of people, it was indeed not a large tribe. But they all looked like they were not to be trifled with, and the beasts on the ships were eager to have a try. "No. Chief, those on the ships are not beasts, are they? I have never seen such beasts." A warrior came over and pointed at the beasts on the ships, and said to Fan Mu, "They are ferocious beasts." Fan Mu stared at the ships and said word by word. He was not sure when he first saw them, but now he was closer. The more he looked at them, the more he felt something was wrong. He thought that Xiao Xian's eagle was a ferocious beast. So, those on the ships were probably ferocious beasts too. Fan Mu suppressed the shock in his heart. His palm holding the knife was sweaty. He really didn't expect that the Yinjiao tribe would be such a tribe. Even though there were not many people, Fan Mu was sure that if the two sides fought now, the drumming tribe would definitely be at a disadvantage, and it would be very miserable. The wooden ladder was put down. On the largest ship, the chief and the shaman walked down side by side. Behind them were two team leaders, and behind them were the excellent young warriors of the Yinjiao tribe. Originally, many people wanted to jump off the ship directly, but Ao told them to walk down the ladder, so they all followed him. "Welcome to the drumming tribe. I am Fan Mu, the chief of the drumming tribe. Fan Mu stepped forward with a perfect smile and said. Nice to meet you. Ao's serious face also showed a smile. I am Ao, the chief of the Yinjiao tribe. The two shamans also faced each other and saluted in the way of their respective tribes. For shamans, saluting was also a very important thing, just like a ceremony. After the introduction, one of the two shamans smiled mysteriously, while the other smiled meaningfully. It seemed that everything was understood without words. Xiao Xian, who was watching aside, was speechless. It was not easy to be a shaman. Look at these two, they seem to have had a deep conversation before they spoke. According to Xiao Xian's understanding of shamans, the two shamans had a good impression of each other. They had really been friends for a long time. The chief and the shaman of the drumming tribe invited the people of the Flaming Horns tribe, and Ao also planned to rest for a few days in the drumming tribe. Although everyone looked very energetic now, it was only because they saw the first outsider on the shore. They were still tired and needed a good rest. Some people followed Ao and the shaman into the residential area of the drumming tribe, while others, under the guidance of the drumming tribe, rowed the ship to a suitable berthing point on the tributary. But they did not get off the ship. Without the chief's order, they still had to stay on the ship. Moreover, even if they were excited to see the drumming tribe, they still needed to be vigilant. Only a few ferocious beasts, who were bored out of their minds, clung to the edge of the ship and looked at the drumming tribe people below the ship, which made the drumming tribe people's hair stand on end. After Fan Mu led people into the tribe, he chatted with Ao and told him about his difficult situation. The Yinjiao tribe is naturally willing to help the drumming tribe in such a dangerous situation. After all, Xian has also received your help. It's just that my people need a rest. The drumming tribe can provide all the accommodation and food, so that the Yinjiao warriors can have a good rest. Fan Mu hurriedly said. The drumming tribe had a large area, so it was not a problem to build a batch of houses in a few days. We can solve the problem of food by ourselves. We only need some houses. After all, there was still the ship. While the two chiefs were talking about the settlement, outside the house, Xiao Xian and Fu Shi were also chatting. The shaman and Ao allowed Xiao Xian to learn more about the situation outside. Those bastards who robbed the water moonstones. I heard that they found a helper this year, Xiao Xian. If you didn't come, the drumming tribe might have to face them alone. Fu Shi said angrily. Listening to Fu Shi, Xiao Xian also roughly understood what was going to happen. Don't worry, we won't stand by and do nothing. Xiao Xian said. Ao had already decided to use this matter as the first whetstone. Moreover, the warriors had been bored out of their minds these days, so their hands must have been itching for a long time. The difference was that the warriors of the tribe faced ferocious beasts before, but now they had to face people. Ao wanted to see the warriors' performance. Chapter 231. With the arrival of the Yinjiao tribe, the drumming tribesmen, who were originally nervous and worried, felt less pressure. At least in the coming war, they would not be fighting alone. With a helper, they felt more at ease. After the two chiefs finished talking, they began to build houses in a place with fewer ponds. After all, not everyone liked to live on ponds. Fan Mu had considered this point, and after discussing it with Ao, they decided to divide the area. That place was slightly away from the drumming tribe's dwelling area. Usually, besides the patrolling team, no one would go there, so Ao took a fancy to it. Even if the two tribes cooperated, they would still be on guard against each other. They were not so familiar with each other that they would not guard against each other. Moreover, that place was closer to the tributary where they docked their ships. Not only could it solve the housing problem, but it could also maintain a satisfactory distance. Naturally, there were no objections. With the help of the drumming tribesmen, the construction efficiency was naturally faster. The next day, there were many more houses in that area full of weeds and trees. The houses were relatively simple, but it did not matter. The Yanjiao tribesmen did not care. They were not going to live here for long. Once the drumming tribe's affairs were settled, they would leave. The elderly, women, and children were still placed on the ships. The ships were relatively safe. If there was an invasion, the Yanjiao tribesmen would do their best to prevent the invaders from boarding. Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian was taking care of the trees and bushes around the newly built temporary residence, and setting up some warning traps. Hearing someone call his name, he looked up. After 2 years, Chen Jia had obviously grown a lot taller, but there was a scar on his face, like a knife wound. What happened? Xiao Xian pointed at the scar on Chen Jia's face. This? Chen Jia laughed, very proud. It was left from last year's Water Moon Festival. The drumming tribe had a lot of trouble every year during the Water Moon Festival. Last year, Chen Jia participated in the defense battle and was slightly injured. The scar on his face was left at that time. While laughing, Chen Jia became depressed again. This year, my father did not let me participate in the battle. I had to secretly sharpen my knife. Because of the news, the people of the drumming tribe sounded the highest alarm. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they naturally wouldn't allow these young children to join. If anything happened to the warriors who participated in the battle, these young people who were still in their growth period would be the tribe's future hope. Seeing Xiao Xian, Chen Jia was very happy. He told Xiao Xian everything that had happened in the past 2 years, especially his heroic battle last year. Young warriors were always happy to share their glorious achievements with others. After he finished speaking, Chen Jia looked around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to them, he asked in a low voice, Xiao Xian, do the people in your tribe usually dress like this? Chen Jia gestured to his head, neck, and body. No, I only dress up like this on important days, Xiao Xian said. Did that mean that the Yanjiao tribe still valued their own tribe? Chen Jia was very happy. He decided to go back and tell everyone about this discovery. That's right, Xiao Xian, where's your animal skin coat? Chen Jia looked inside the house. Previously, when he saw the Yanjiao tribe people, his gaze never left the Yanjiao tribe people's bodies. Those unknown animal skins and all kinds of ornaments, as well as those big teeth, made his eyes stare straight. However, Chen Jia wasn't familiar with the other Yanjiao tribe people, so he could only come to Xiao Xian's place. He wanted to see the Yanjiao tribe's clothing, so he could go back and brag to others. I only brought one piece. It's in the wooden box inside. The rest are on the boat. Xiao Xian pointed to the wooden box in the corner. This was something that old Ku had asked Caesar to send over early in the morning. There were 2 boxes. One contained daily necessities and clothes, and the other contained the enlarged thorn black wind clothing. Old Ku was worried that Xiao Xian wouldn't have anything to show off. Can I take a look? Chen Jia asked expectantly. Sure. Chen Jia happily ran to the front of the wooden box and opened it. Oh, Chen Jia touched the clothes that were covered with spikes. Other than crocodiles, they had only seen a few wild beasts. They had never seen a beast with so many long thorns. While Chen Jia was looking at the thorn black wind clothing with shining eyes, Xiao Xian also casually asked about the upcoming war. Don't underestimate this group of rebellious children. The things that they know may not be less than the adults. Chen Jia and the other children have a very close relationship with each other. Other than the drumming tribe, there's also the drumming tribe. It's also a very dangerous tribe. Chen Jia said. Drumming tribe? Yes, a friend of mine overheard it. It's just that the drumming tribe is close to the central region and rarely comes here. This time, they will probably come, but I'm not sure. Chen Jia told Xiao Xian all the information he had gathered. As Xiao Xian listened, he changed the direction of the thin silk thread in his hand. He thought to himself, it seems that this time, there will be many people coming here to snatch the water moonstones. Moreover, they are all fierce characters. Maybe there will be people from the central region involved. No wonder the people of the drumming tribe were so desperate. The Yanjiao tribe, I have to be more cautious. At night, Xiao Xian shared a room with 8 warriors. Among them were Kiki and Tuo. They were all people he knew. As the night deepened, there were no fires in the drumming tribe. The Yanjiao tribe also went to bed early. There were no fires around, only the moonlight sprinkling down. In the middle of the night, Kiki woke up because he wanted to pee. He got up in a daze and went outside to relieve himself. Not long after Kiki went out, an undetectable buzzing sound was heard. Xiao Xian suddenly opened his eyes and carefully identified the direction of the silk thread. Xiao Xian took out his leather whistle and blew it a few times. It sounded like the sound of insects in the night. Kiki, who was walking in a daze from his room into the forest, suddenly stopped. He yawned and continued to walk forward. However, after stretching his body, he put his hand on the hilt of the knife at his waist. It was a habit of hunting. When outside, no matter where, no matter what, the knife would never leave his body. It was the first time he came to such a strange tribe, so he had to be more careful. Except for the first day when everyone dressed up, they changed back to their original clothes on the second day, which made it easier to work. At this time, most of the people of the Yanjiao tribe were wearing sleeveless animal skin clothes. On Keek's exposed strong arms, the muscles were like hard stones, and the meridians on his arms were pulsing. His strong body looked like a solid wall. At first glance, he really did look like someone from the drumming tribe. Kiki walked into the depths of the forest step by step. While walking, Kiki suddenly adjusted the totem power in his body to the limit. The momentum around his body rose instantly, and the flame-like lines appeared clearly on his exposed arms. He stomped his feet on the ground, splashing mud and grass. Keek's figure shot out like a bullet, rushing in one direction. Was he discovered? The man in the grass didn't know how he was discovered so quickly, even though he was good at hiding. When did the people of the drumming tribe become so sharp? The man hiding in the grass didn't expect that the sleepy guy would suddenly attack. Moreover, the guy was running straight towards him. He was so fast that he didn't have much time to react. This kind of attack was similar to the people of the drumming tribe, who broke out in an instant and closely followed the prey. The person in the grass also reacted quickly. He hurriedly stepped back a few meters. His movement was not as fierce as Keek's, but it was also very fast. His figure flashed from left to right, and the next moment, he suddenly rushed to another direction like lightning. His whole person was like a ghost in the night, drifting unpredictably. He thought that after dodging the first explosion, he would be able to get rid of the opponent's tight chase. But soon, he found that it was useless. The wall-like figure kept chasing him, and became more and more flexible. His speed was no slower than his. How could it be? The man who was dodging was horrified. Didn't they say that when facing the people of the drumming tribe, as long as he dodged the first explosion, he would be able to get rid of them? But what was going on now? The two sides were getting closer and closer. The stone knife flashed with the night wind, mixed with the cold killing intent. The man only felt a gust of wind. His sensitive nose was full of fierce blood smell. It didn't smell like human blood, but more like something more dangerous. The man's eyes flashed with despair. His whole body was cold, and his legs seemed to be frozen. His movements were slow for a moment. He could hear the sound of his heart beating like a thunder drum. In the sparse woods, under the moonlight, Keek's face also became clear. Seeing Keek's face, the man's pupils shrank. No. No. This was not the people of the drumming tribe. Who the hell was this? Before he lost consciousness, he could only see the shadow of the knife and the flame-like lines under the moonlight. Chapter 232. After Kiki finished peeing, he yawned and went back with the bloody man in his hand. As soon as he opened the door, he found several pairs of eyes staring at him. The moonlight shining through the door was reflected in the eyes. Kiki was so scared that the sleepiness he had just woken up disappeared immediately. "What's wrong?" Kiki asked nervously. Although there were no torches in the room, everyone could see clearly what Kiki was carrying because of the moonlight. Not to mention, there was a strong smell of blood. Just now when Xiao Xian blew the whistle, the people who were asleep all got up and silently approached the door, ready to go out and solve the problem if something really happened. However, they didn't hear Kiki's signal for help for a long time. Now it seemed that this guy had solved the problem. "What's that in your hand?" Tua asked. He was worried that Kiki would kill the patrolling warriors of the drumming tribe. It was rare for them to meet a foreign tribe, and they had a cooperative relationship. It would be bad if Kiki made trouble at this time. "Oh, I don't know who it is." Kiki scratched his head and put the man down. He didn't know what to say. He didn't feel anything when he killed the man, but now he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. At that time, he acted according to his habit. He didn't care whether it was a man or a ferocious beast hiding in the grass. He dealt with the man in the same way he dealt with the ferocious beast. After he finished, he found that this time was different. Before Kiki could answer, Xiao Xian went closer to have a look. The man was almost cut in half by Kiki's knife. The blood started from the woods and extended to here. "He's not from the drumming tribe," Xiao Xian said after seeing the man's appearance. "Not from the drumming tribe? Then who is it?" "He's not from Yanjiao either." Tuo went closer, not caring about the blood and grass. He searched the dead man on the ground, but found nothing. "Tomorrow, let the shaman and chief have a look. Or, let the people of the drumming tribe have a look. They are more familiar with the tribes here. Let's see if they can confirm it," Xiao Xian said. Kiki answered and then climbed onto the wooden bed. He put his arms behind his head and stared at the dark ceiling. Seeing this, Xiao Xian thought that this was the first time Kiki had killed someone, so he asked, "Kiki, do you feel uncomfortable? Can't get used to it?" Hearing this, the rest of the people didn't feel sleepy anymore. They wanted to hear Kiki's next answer. Kiki kept silent for a few seconds, then said slowly, "No." "What is that?" Someone couldn't help but ask. After all, they had no experience in dealing with people like this. Thinking about the upcoming battle, they wanted to learn from Kiki, who had just experienced it himself. Experience was something that warriors had always valued. That is. Kiki paused after saying 2 words. "What is it?" "I just feel. Why is this person so weak? It's not satisfying to kill him with 1 strike," Kiki said. Xiao Xian was speechless. This guy's old habit of looking down on people who could be killed with a single slash was back again. If the dead man heard this, he would be so angry that he would spit out blood. There were still a few days before the Water Moon Festival in the drumming tribe, and now the invaders had sent someone to investigate. The one sent here at this time was definitely not weak. At least, he was confident that he could avoid the patrols of the drumming tribe. However, he had triggered the warning system set by Xiao Xian in the forest. At the same time, Kiki, as a member of the advance group, had always gone all out when he met an enemy. He couldn't afford to be careless or slow down. This was the main reason why he killed the man with 1 slash. After chatting for a while, the warriors were too tired and fell asleep. Kiki also threw the man who was almost cut in half at the door. The next day, when the people of the drumming tribe came, they were shocked and they saw the scene at the door. They thought it was a civil war among the Yanjiao tribes. After hearing Xiao Xian's words, they became serious. To be on the safe side, they took the dead man with them and went to the chief of the drumming tribe with Kiki and Xiao Xian. Ao also went to check the situation. After carefully observing the dead man, Fan Mu shook his head and said, "I don't know which tribe he came from." The people of the drumming tribe didn't travel around as much as the people of the Pu tribe, so they only knew the tribes closest to them and the tribes that often attacked them. They didn't know anything else. He should be the helper of the drumming tribe this time. A man beside Fan Mu said, he avoided the patrols outside. He could avoid the patrols outside, but he was easily killed by Kiki. Fan Mu and the shaman of the drumming tribe looked at each other and didn't say anything. They just had a new evaluation of the strength of the Yanjiao tribe's warriors, which could be seen from the slash marks on the dead man's body. Fan Mu and the others wanted to ask more about what happened last night, such as whether the enemy showed his totem or not, but Kiki's answers almost made them suffer internal injuries. Too sleepy, didn't pay attention, don't remember. As the most outstanding warrior of the younger generation of the drumming tribe, Qingyi looked at Kiki, who was scratching his ears and cheeks to recall the battle last night, and thought to himself. When Kiki was reenacting what happened last night, there was no murderous look on his face, nor in his words. There was only stupidity between his eyebrows, and no murderous look. Just by looking at the appearance, people of the Yanjiao tribe would definitely be more popular outside than the people of the drumming tribe, if they didn't wear the very distinctive clothes on the first day. It was a matter of appearance. People of the drumming tribe generally looked more exaggerated. However, as a person who often led a team to trade, Qingyi had an instinct of dealing with different people. He could feel a kind of dangerous aura from Kiki, like the wild beasts in the deep mountains who would kill their prey once they set their eyes on it. Fan Mu asked for a long time, but still didn't get much useful information, so he gave up and said to Ao, "It seems that we have to deploy as soon as possible." "Yes." Ao nodded. When the people of the drumming tribe and the people of the Yanjiao tribe were discussing how to deploy, hundreds of people of the drumming tribe gathered in a mountain not far from the border of the drumming tribe. The man in the lead was tall and thin, wearing black animal skin. On his face, a scar extended from his forehead to his jaw, and crossed his whole face. Coupled with his gloomy eyes, he looked like a poisonous snake. He was the leader who led the drumming tribe to attack the drumming tribe and rob the water moonstones, Ji. The man in the lead was holding a half-meter-long knife made of animal bones, looking in the direction of the drumming tribe. After a short while, he heard something, so he looked back and raised his chin. "Finally here. I thought you gave up this good thing. I didn't expect you to still come. Let me be happy for nothing." Nearly 500 people came over. Although these people looked very ordinary, not as strong as the people of the drumming tribe, and not as murderous as the people of the drumming tribe, their footsteps were very light. This was not intentional, but a kind of habit, a habit cultivated since childhood. Among them, each totem warrior was holding a dagger-like long-handled weapon made of stone, animal bones, or beast horns. It's rare to have such a good opportunity. We of the drumming tribe certainly won't give it up. Among the people who came over, the leader laughed. As for the reason why we are late. We sent 2 people to the drumming tribe yesterday, but only one came back this morning. The man who was laughing just now, the smile in his eyes disappeared in an instant, and was replaced by gloominess and fierceness. Such a rapid change was very strange. Ji frowned, and the scar on his face became more and more ferocious. "What do you want to say? You didn't tell us that the people of the drumming tribe found helpers." The man said angrily. "Helpers? Ji looked sideways at the leader of the drumming tribe, the corners of his mouth raised, and there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. "So what? If the drumming tribe is afraid, you can leave now. The drumming tribe never begged you to come with us, and we don't need it." In Ji's view, even if the drumming tribe found helpers, they would be some small tribes with little sense of existence in the periphery, and there was nothing to be afraid of. "In your dreams." The leader of the drumming tribe sneered. In fact, his idea was similar to Ji's. After all, this was not the central region. They didn't need to be careful in everything. He was just more cautious than Ji. Of the two people sent out, only one came back, and the other didn't come back at the agreed time. Obviously, something happened. We still have to be careful. It's good to send someone to inquire about it. The person I sent out to inquire only heard that they found helpers, but didn't find out who the helpers of the drumming tribe were. The defense of the drumming tribe is much tighter, and he couldn't go deep into the residence of the drumming tribe to inquire. Enough. Ji impatiently interrupted the other party's words, saying, even if the group of Gorloks found helpers, who could they find? Look at how timid you are. The people of the drumming tribe thought, do you think everyone is as greedy and crazy as the people of the drumming tribe? The people of the drumming tribe were just greedy, but they were also afraid of death. If they lost their lives, why would they want precious things? Ji looked at the people of the drumming tribe sarcastically, and then glanced at other places on the mountain. On this mountain and the surrounding mountains, there were many people who wanted to play the game of mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Some people wanted to sneak into the drumming tribe when the battle was chaotic. Ji didn't intend to pay attention to these people. When they got all the things in their hands, they would deal with these weak and poor creatures. Ji took out a wooden whistle and blew it. Whoosh, a figure flew over the woods behind him and hovered in the sky twice, as if showing its heroic appearance to the people below. A kite trained by the feather tribe? The leader of the drumming tribe was surprised. Ji raised an arm and proudly looked at the bird in the sky flying down and standing on his shoulder. This was a raptor nearly 1 meter high with sharp eyes. When it spread its wings, it looked bigger and more powerful. The bird's claws were so strong that the animal skin coat on Ji's arm was torn by the bird's claws, but Ji didn't care. This was the crown kite that Ji exchanged a lot of things from the feather tribe to inquire about the situation. It looked similar to other kites, except that it had a few fan-shaped feathers on its head, like the crown on a rooster's head. That was why it was called a crown kite. It was a popular bird among the birds domesticated by the feather tribe for trading. Chapter 233. This kind of bird in the feather tribe was usually exchanged by other tribes to help them find people or inquire about some simple information. It could also be used as an early warning. However, to exchange for this kind of bird, a lot of food was needed. If you used shell coins, you would need several bunches to exchange for one bird. And this kind of crowned kite needed more things. It was expensive but very popular, especially in the central region. Maybe the failure made the drumming tribe a little worried, so this time they didn't hesitate to exchange for a crown kite at a high price. The crown kite was good at inquiring about the situation. It was this crown kite that told Ji about the other people hiding in the surrounding forest. In addition, the crown kite was more powerful than the common kites. When the crown kite was there, many birds in the forest would avoid it. Even if they didn't, they wouldn't collide with it easily. Ji showed the crown kite standing on his arm to the drumming tribe people, and then said slowly, "It's up to us to inquire about the situation over there." The people of the drumming tribe agreed with Ji's action very much, thinking that this man was not so crazy as to be brainless. But he must have spent a lot of things to exchange for such a bird from the feather tribe. If it were their drumming tribe, they wouldn't exchange too many things for a bird. Ji said something to the crown kite and raised his arm. "Go." The crown kite flew up and screamed, as if it was asking other birds around to make way for it. Looking at the figure flying to the drumming tribe in the sky, Ji's smile became bigger and bigger. It won't take long for it to come back and tell us about the situation in the drumming tribe. Unfortunately, as soon as Ji finished his words and the smile on his face didn't disappear, he saw the crown kite that flew into the territory of the drumming tribe hurriedly fly back here, flapping its wings hard, as if something was chasing it. If it was a beast running on the ground, it could really be described as pissing in its pants. The drumming tribe people looked at the crown kite flying back in the sky, and turned to look at Ji, who was standing there with a stiff smile on his face. Was this what he meant by, "It won't take long to know"? Wasn't it too fast? Anyone who saw such a situation would be suspicious. It was not the right way to inquire. Obviously, there was something wrong. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Ji took out the wooden whistle and blew it, trying hard not to crush it. After hearing the whistle, the flying crown kite stopped flapping its wings for a while, but it didn't mean to stop. It glided directly over their heads and disappeared in the blink of an eye. No matter how Ji whistled or called, the eagle didn't come out. Ha ha ha. The leader of the drumming tribe laughed out loud. He was happy to see the drumming tribe make a fool of themselves. After spending so many things, this was all he got in return. Pa! Ji was so angry that he crushed the wooden whistle. There's no need to investigate anymore. When the time comes, just charge. This time, he brought 200 more people than the last time he attacked the drumming tribe. They were all intermediate totem warriors and 2 more senior totem warriors. There were still some people at the foot of the mountain. Together with the people of the drumming tribe, there were nearly 2,000 people. It would definitely be easier than last time. They would definitely be able to snatch the water moonstone successfully. The total number of the drumming tribe was large, but there were not many people who were a real threat. Originally, the tribe had planned to send another 1,000 people, but Ji refused. The more people there were, the less credit he could get. After all, some of the things he brought back were trophies that could be kept by himself. They just wanted to snatch things, not to fight for territory. If the 2 tribes were to fight, it would be more than just these people. It was better to destroy the drumming tribe directly. No, if he destroyed the drumming tribe, where would he get the water moonstone? Ji suppressed the idea in his heart. On the side of the drumming tribe, 2 more people were sent to the drumming tribe to inquire. This time, they didn't go deep, but they came back. They also found out that the reinforcements of the drumming tribe were called Yanjiao tribe. But that was all. How about it? I'll tell you. Ji had never heard of the Yanjiao tribe. It's just a small, unknown tribe on the periphery. Don't worry. Some people of the drumming tribe had heard of it, but not many, and they didn't think it was very important. They seemed to have heard of it in the last 2 years. But there was no such tribe in the central region. This time, the people of the drumming tribe were relieved. As long as there was no tribe in the central region, it was fine. They felt relatively easy and confident to deal with a small tribe on the periphery. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. The full moon finally came. For the people of the Yanjiao tribe, it was the first time for them to see such a spectacle in the drumming tribe. The muddy water became clear and transparent, and there were shining stones under the river. However, the people of the Yanjiao tribe didn't have much sense of value now. They just found the water moonstone fresh, and they couldn't eat it. Seeing the reaction of the Yanjiao tribe, the people of the drumming tribe finally felt relieved. They thought that the people of the Yanjiao tribe were all good people. Ao personally led some people to guard an area on the territory of the drumming tribe. This is our first battle here, and it's also a significant one. Our opponents are no longer the ferocious beasts in the forest, but the invaders from other tribes. They're the same as us. But what I want to say is, although the invaders are also humans and not ferocious beasts, I still hope you can treat them seriously like how you hunt ferocious beasts. Just like Kiki, let these invaders see the ability of the Yanjiao tribe. Let them remember how the Yanjiao tribe defeated them. Being praised by the chief in public, Kiki felt very proud. What's there to be proud of? When the time comes, I'll definitely hunt more than you. Tua and the others secretly thought. Ao's gaze swept across the people gathered here and said solemnly, the invaders are not my people. Kill the invaders. Kill. The people seemed to have returned to the time when they were in the tribe, standing on the top of the mountain before the hunt, mobilizing before the hunt. At this time, they really wanted to sing the hunting song, but the chief didn't allow it. After finishing his words, Ao waved his hand, and the people gathered here immediately scattered to different places. This was the arrangement they had made in advance. They were divided into hunting groups, and each group had its own place to be responsible for. Xiao Xian was assigned to Keek's group. They were all members of the advance group, and later they would catch some powerful people, such as middle-level and senior totem warriors. It was the first time for them to face such a hunt, so many people were very nervous and excited. After holding back for so long, they could finally hunt. Hey, in the air, Cha-Cha had already warned. Then, not far away, there came the sound of the people patrolling outside the drumming tribe. This meant that the people over there had officially set off. Ao stood in the same place and didn't move. He quietly listened to the movements nearby, as well as some small sounds in the distance that were quickly approaching. Whoosh, an arrow, from the other side of the forest, was shot towards Ao, who was standing there, straight to his face. This arrow was carefully made, and the arrowhead was also polished with the best stone material, which could easily penetrate a tree trunk. The archer's archery was also very good. The arrow passed through the forest, but didn't touch a branch or a leaf. Instead, it caught a little gap that was difficult to find in the forest. However, when this fierce arrow was half an arm away from Ao, it was firmly caught and then thrown back. It almost followed the trajectory of the arrow, but after all, it missed Ao a little. Finally, with a tut sound, it shot into the trunk of a tree. Ji, who shot this arrow, looked at Ao, who was across the forest. His eyelids twitched, and a strong sense of crisis suddenly came to him. He was a senior totem warrior, and so was the person standing there. Looking at the arrow that pierced into the trunk not far away, Ji looked at the other side of the forest, and happened to meet Ao's eyes. Ao held the long spear in his hand, staring at the archer. The totem power in his body was running to the peak, and all the totem patterns on his body appeared. The flame-like totem patterns of senior totem warriors almost covered his whole body, extending to his fingers. A strong sense of foreboding spread all over his body. Ji immediately jumped down from the tree and left the original place. That kind of totem was definitely not from any tribe he had ever seen. This was the Yanjiao tribe. Ji thought in his heart. His thumb rubbed on the long handle, and then, just like he had thrown it thousands of times in hunting, Ao threw the long spear in his hand. Fast. The long spear was like a sudden lightning, quickly passing through the gap between the trees, rubbing the bark of some trees on the way, and then penetrating the body of an invader who rushed over. The long spear went through his body, and the bright red blood was brought out with the long spear. However, the long spear didn't stop flying out like the blood, but penetrated 2 trees at a faster speed than the splashing blood, and went to Ji. However, Ji quickly changed his position, and the place where he was just now, another warrior of the drumming tribe passed by. After penetrating 1 person and 2 trees, the long spear pierced the body of the second invader, and finally nailed deeply into a tree as thick as a bucket. Wherever the spear had touched, the bark and wood chips on the tree trunk exploded, producing a loud bang. Crack, 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 that tree fell down. Seeing the situation over there, Ji was shocked. The Yanjiao tribe didn't seem to be as weak as they thought. Except for Ao's place, there were fights and killings everywhere else. Some people of the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe were really good at hiding, but for the Yanjiao tribesmen who often dealt with the ferocious beasts in the mountains and forests, this was really nothing. This was also the reason why Kiki sensed the opponent's position after receiving Xiao Xian's warning. Xiao Xian waved the stone knife in his hand, and the stone knife chopped down from the air turned into a grey lightning, going straight behind the grass in front of him. But when it was about to hit the grass, the wrist holding the knife slightly shook, and the knife suddenly changed its original route and stabbed into the grass. Seeing Xiao Xian's knife coming at him, the man picked up the stone tool in his hand, intending to block it. Unexpectedly, Xiao Xian suddenly changed his attack midway. He didn't have time to follow the change, and his forearm was pierced through by the stone knife. The knife quickly pierced through the arm bone and pierced the man's neck without stopping. Pulling out the knife, Xiao Xian looked at the other people in other places. Tuo beheaded an invader of the drumming tribe with one knife, without any slack. As Ao said, he treated every invader like how he faced the ferocious beasts when he was hunting. The burst of totem power, every swing of the knife, every attack, was just like when he was hunting in the mountains and forests of the tribe. He didn't use the knife, but once he did, he used the strength to chop the ferocious beasts. Even the ferocious beasts with thick skin and hard armor would bleed if they were hit, let alone these unarmored humans. Tuo's knife was even more powerful than Keek's that day. The man who was hit by Tuo's knife didn't even have time to say a word before his body split open. Hot blood sprayed out, splashing on the ground, on the tree trunk, in the grass, and even on Tuo's body. Without stopping, Tuo quickly set his target on the second intruder. He waved his sword before Xiao Xian could. The blade quickly drew a horizontal arc in the air, and the second intruder was directly cut in half at the waist. The attack was executed in a single breath. The speed, the ruthlessness, and the ferocity of the saber completely exceeded the invader's imagination. Puff! The color of blood spread out like a red fountain. The man who was hit by the knife was still in the air, but below the waist, he ran 2 steps before falling down. When Fu Shi came over with 2 warriors of the drumming tribe to check on the situation of the Yanjiao tribe, they happened to see this scene. They had seen many similar situations along the way, and it had already made them feel a chill in their hearts. Sucking in a cold breath with the smell of blood, and then looking at the violent man in the killing field who was abnormally calm, Fu Shi and the others suddenly felt the hair on their head stand up. What kind of people were these? They were not inferior to the style of the drumming tribe at all. Even more terrifying, there was a kind of momentum that made people directly shrink back. The people of the drumming tribe also violently tore people apart, but when they saw the way the Yanjiao tribe acted, they couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Noticing the arrival of Fu Shi and the others, and after cutting down the third invader, Tuo looked back in the direction of Fu Shi and the others and smiled in a friendly way. However, because he was on the battlefield, his eyes flashed with a little bit of cold light. Taking a deep breath, and then another, Fu Shi and the others felt like they were poured with the coldest ice in winter, and their bodies were about to explode from the cold. The drumming tribe was bloodthirsty. Yes. The drumming tribe was more bloodthirsty. Of course it was. Then what about the Yanjiao tribe? The people of the drumming tribe couldn't help but ask this question in their hearts. This was no longer a question of whether they were bloodthirsty or not, this was more like another level of killing. Looking at the stunned reactions of Fu Shi and the others, Xiao Xian actually felt very emotional. Before, he had thought that the people of the Yanjiao tribe would be merciful because it was the first time they faced a fellow human invader, and that would cause some psychological and physiological reactions. However, Xiao Xian admitted that he was still too naive. From Keek's time, Xiao Xian knew that when facing the same kind, the so-called psychological and physiological reactions were almost non-existent. Here, there was only the tribe, their own people, and the enemy. This was probably deeply engraved in their blood since birth. Of course, this also included Xiao Xian's current body. These people of the Flaming Horns tribe were like humanoid weapons that had been locked up for a long time. In the past, they were only confined in unknown places to practice. But now, these humanoid weapons were finally released. Chapter 234. Whether it was Tuo or the other members of the Yanjiao tribe, they all exuded a murderous aura that couldn't be ignored. It was so thick that it made people tremble. This was a group of hunters who wandered outside and were gradually forgotten by the world. They were a group of killing gods. They seemed to have walked out of a sea of blood, their violent and tyrannical aura making people breathless. However, these people were very restrained. As long as they wanted, they could hide all their murderous aura in the next moment. These people were like human-shaped weapons that had suddenly been thrown into this area, and they caused numerous bloody and murderous intents. Seeing Xiao Xian and Tuo looking at him doubtfully, Fu Shi came back to his senses and swallowed his saliva. He said, "The chief asked me to come over and see if you need help here." Towards the end, Fu Shi didn't have enough confidence and was embarrassed to continue. "Do you still need help? Don't you see that the situation here is almost one-sided? Cough, you don't seem to need it." Fu Shi said embarrassedly. "Don't worry here. Fu Shi, you can take care of the people in the tribe who are harvesting the water moonstones. There should be people who have hidden very well who have broken through. Even if the Yanjiao tribe was in charge of this area, there would be people who broke through the defense line in other places. Just like before, there might even be other people who interfered. The drumming tribe was also not peaceful. Well, since you're fine here, we'll leave first." After saying that, Fu Shi took his people and ran away. As he ran away, Fu Shi thought to himself, "I told you not to worry about the Yanjiao tribe people. Before, when I saw Xiao Xian's strength, I knew that the people in this tribe should be relatively strong." The chief was worried for nothing. These people of the Flaming Horns tribe were not weak. On the contrary, they were much stronger than they had imagined. If they were to fight against such a tribe, Fu Shi shuddered. However, with such a tribe as a helper, the drumming tribe was indeed much more relaxed this time. After Fu Shi left, Tuo shook off the blood on his knife. His body was also stained with a lot of blood, but he didn't bother to wipe it off. He went to the other side with Xiao Xian. No one had come here for the time being. It was a waste of time to just stand there. They needed to take the initiative to search. In the drumming tribe, there were many places with tall grass and dense shrubs. Many invaders who were good at hiding liked to wait in such places and wait for an opportunity. Xiao Xian walked into a bush that was taller than him and used his stone knife to push aside the weeds in front of him. He was vigilant of his surroundings. As long as there was the slightest movement, he would immediately slash with his knife. This was because most of the movements were caused by the hidden intruders. As he walked, two more people jumped out from the bushes. Xiao Xian was about to start, but Tuo stopped him, indicating that he should do it. Tuo was just about to use his saber when he saw a person rush out from the side. "I'll do it. I'll do it." Kiki rushed over before Tuo could do anything. The stone knife in his hand chopped at the intruder in the front. 1 slash, 2 slashes, 3 slashes, the dense grass that was filled with the smell of grass was suddenly filled with the thick smell of blood. The invader who had been alive and kicking just a moment ago was now lying on the ground silently. In this place, except for their own people, all living creatures with attacking power were regarded as enemies. At this moment, in their eyes, these intruders were the same as all kinds of prey they had encountered when they were hunting in the forest. Although these intruders looked like them, the chief had said that all non-members of the tribe were the same. Of course, allies were different. Kiki didn't feel any pressure at all. Sometimes, Xiao Xian only felt that these people's thoughts were unbelievably simple. For many people, things that were difficult to adapt to were not a problem for them at all. After killing 2 intruders, Kiki ran away and continued to search for other intruders hiding in other places. Tuo was so angry that he chased after Kiki because his prey was robbed. He also wanted to rob Kiki's prey. How many prey they had hunted was to be reported afterwards. The chief had said that they would be rewarded according to their merits. Their team was in charge of this area and didn't say where they had to guard. Therefore, they only needed to find those intruders in this area and kill them. Xiao Xian didn't follow them, but continued to walk forward. As he approached the edge of the area they were in charge of, he ran into Mao who was running towards him. Behind Mao, there were 3 people who were chasing after him. Judging from the weapons in their hands, they were all from the drumming tribe. Mao, who was running, suddenly turned around and chopped at the man who was chasing him the most. The man reacted quickly and blocked it with the weapon in his hand. Mao's knife had been chipped a lot because of several slashes. This time, the strong chop directly broke the knife from the middle. Mao threw the broken knife in his hand, and half of the knife pierced into the throat of the man who was chasing him. Mao didn't stop, but pulled out another stone knife from his waist. Looking at the two people who were chasing him, he bent his knees and bounced to the side, running towards them. Mao saw Xiao Xian, but he felt that he had the ability to deal with him. What he was doing now was to tell Xiao Xian not to interfere, and he would deal with it himself. Otherwise, if he felt that he couldn't handle it, he would run towards Xiao Xian instead of away. Xiao Xian wasn't worried. With Mao's current strength as an intermediate totem warrior, it would be difficult for him to fight against 3 people by himself. After all, they were also intermediate totem warriors. The Yanjiao tribesmen didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Instead, they ran away. It was just like encountering a fierce beast when hunting. If they couldn't beat it, they would run away. After running away, they would look for a chance to stab back, or even give a fatal blow. There was no doubt that the warriors of the Yanjiao tribe were calmer than the people of the drumming tribe. Their calmness made the people of the drumming tribe feel scared. When the people of the drumming tribe encountered similar situations, most of them would say, "I'm not afraid of you. Fight." This was because their eyes were red from killing, and their emotions were out of control. And the people of the Flaming Horns tribe, just like Mao, ran away first. When the pursuers thought that he was going to escape to a safer place or look for his companions, they found that he turned around and slashed his blade, killing the pursuers one by one. They could always find the best chance to attack when others thought they were crazy and lost their minds. However, the people of the drumming tribe, and the drumming tribe didn't know that when the people of the Yanjiao tribe were hunting in the forest, the more dangerous the situation was, the more frequently they would use their killing moves. If the people of the Yanjiao tribe didn't have a calm mind at that time, they would have died long ago. They didn't expect to be smart or flexible. They only needed to keep calm in the short time when the situation was critical. In this way, even if they couldn't kill, they could choose to escape unscathed. As Xiao Xian expected, Mao killed the pursuers very calmly. One strike, another strike, another strike. After that, there were several more wounds on Mao's body. But he didn't care. After applying some medicine, he ran to where his grandfather was. On Ao's side. After several unsuccessful attacks, Ji found that the people he was facing were very difficult to deal with. Facing Ao, it was like facing a towering ancient mountain. Standing in front of such a mountain, Ji suddenly felt that he was a little small. Ao's attack came without any warning. Just a moment ago, he was still walking slowly, as if he had left the battlefield and did not want to be a spectator. However, the next moment, he took a step forward like lightning. Under the stimulation of the totem power that had soared to the peak and the momentum of this step, he waved his arm like the long spear that had been thrown out just now. With the momentum of this step, he rushed towards Ao with a strong and fierce momentum that could break through everything. When Mao arrived, he just saw a figure being hit by his grandfather. Not paying attention to the figure that flew out, Mao looked around and found no other dangerous people. Then he went to Ao's side. "Grandpa, should we let them out?" Mao glanced at Ao, and then quickly looked at the direction of the ship. Ao was silent for 2 seconds, listening carefully to the movements around, and then said, "Well, let them out to stretch their legs." Ao used this battle as the first training ground and the first whetstone for the Yanjiao tribe. Looking at the current situation, it was totally unnecessary to let those guys out. But, it had been a while, and there were people outside the drumming tribe who were ready to make trouble, so it was better to end the battle quickly. With Ao's permission, Mao's eyes flashed with joy. He didn't stay any longer, and hurried away to let Ao continue. Looking at the man who was hit and was about to get up and run away, Ao frowned and clenched his fists. He was really tough. Ji just wanted to leave as soon as possible. The people of the Yanjiao tribe had a keen sense of danger, a fierce and decisive attack, and a savage and ferocious killing intent, which shocked him very much. Where the hell did this tribe come from? Ji was extremely horrified. And what did the young man say just now? Let them out. Who were they? The ominous feeling in Ji's heart grew stronger and stronger. Perhaps, this operation was not as simple as he thought. Instead, it was carried out in a way that made them fearful. Mao, who ran out from Ao's side, avoided the sneak attack of the invaders. At this moment, he didn't want to fight, but picked up the leather whistle and blew it with a specific rhythm. Mor, Yang Guang and his sister, and Lei, who were participating in the defense battle everywhere, had excitement in their eyes. Ignoring the wounds on their bodies, they avoided the blades of the invaders and ran away. While running, they blew their own leather whistles. For a moment, there were all kinds of whistles in several places where the Yanjiao tribe was responsible for defense. The sound of the leather whistle made by each person was slightly different from that of the wooden whistle, but the sound of each tamer's whistle was well known by those ferocious beasts with engravings. Several ferocious beasts, who were ordered to stay around the fleet, were pawing the ground and kicking their hooves out of boredom. Hearing the whistles, they sped up and ran towards their tamers. Chapter 235. Hearing Mao's whistle, Xiao Xian knew that Ao had decided to let those guys out. However, Caesar was not among them. Xiao Xian did not ask Caesar to come over. He asked Caesar to stay on the ship to protect Old Ku and the others. They also needed to be on guard. After all, the elderly, the children, and the women who had not awakened their totemic powers were all there, not to mention the shaman and the fire seed. After Mao blew the whistle, he was targeted by 2 more intruders. But this time, Mao did not kill them immediately. Instead, he led the 2 tails in circles. After a few circles, there were 3 tails. Suddenly, Mao stopped and stood there, looking back at the 3 tails who were chasing him. Because of Mao's sudden stop, the 3 people who were chasing him also stopped 10 steps away from him. The 3 of them targeted Mao because he was young. Such a young warrior should be easier to deal with, so they avoided those fierce-looking middle-aged warriors and chose this younger one. However, why was this young warrior not nervous at all when surrounded by the 3 of them, and there was no fear in his eyes? Was it a trick? The 3 of them were suspicious. Then they sneered in their hearts. What could such a young warrior do? Just when the 3 of them were about to rush over, they suddenly heard a sound and the ground was shaking. Dong, 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 the sound was getting closer and closer, and the shaking of the ground was getting more and more obvious, indicating that a heavy object was approaching. What on earth was it? The 3 of them turned around and saw a tall figure running towards them from afar. The figure barged through the obstacles in front of him in a barbaric manner. Because of the speed of his running, the fats on his body were jiggling. Such a fast running speed was totally incompatible with the fat on his body. It was like a chariot rushing over at high speed. What was that? The 3 of them were frightened. A wild boar without hair. No matter what it was not easy to deal with. Spread out. The 3 of them scattered in 3 directions. However, they underestimated the speed of Siya's change of direction. Bang! 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 3 consecutive collisions. Because of the sudden change of direction, the grass and soil were kicked up and splashed everywhere. When the grass and soil fell down, the 3 people who were planning to deal with Mao just now were nowhere to be seen. Only some splashed blood on the ground remained. After sending the 3 invaders flying, Siya was very excited. From the moment they left the tribe until just now, their hands and feet were tied. They were either locked on the ship or ordered to stay near the fleet. They were not allowed to run around at all. When they heard that there was a battle going on in the tribe, their hooves were itching and their claws were even more itchy. Looking at Siya who was jumping happily, Mao grinned and jumped on Siya's back, waving his saber in high spirits. Let's go. Go and take the credit. Don't let others take it. Humph, Siya made a sound, which was a response to Mao's words. In another place, a warrior with a stone saber in his hand was running. He was a member of the drumming tribe. His original weapon was broken, and the stone saber he was holding now was actually picked up from a warrior of the drumming tribe who had been cut down by him. His injuries were quite serious. His waist and abdomen had been pierced by a sharp knife. Blood dripped down as he ran. The wound did not stop bleeding. From where he was injured to where he was now, there were bloodstains everywhere he went. He knew that he would not be able to get out alive this time, but he did not want to stay here peacefully. If he could kill a few more people, if he could get a few more water moon stones, it would be good to die with them. The more he thought about it, the more vicious his eyes became. They were filled with determination and madness. Killing one more would be good, but who should he kill? As he ran, he searched the surrounding bushes and grass, trying to find the one who had stabbed him. A chill suddenly rose from his spine. His movement slowed down, and his feet kicked a raised piece of soil. He staggered and fell down. When he was about to get up, he glanced at a figure coming over. That warrior looked very young. The blood and pain of the wound stimulated his brain, and his mouth raised a cruel smile. Just right, he liked to kill these young warriors in the tribe. However, before he got up, he found that the young warrior stopped not far away, and no longer approached. He just stood there, as if he was waiting to see something. What was he looking at? Rustle, rustle, there were footsteps approaching. It was very close, almost next to him. Before that, he did not hear any movement at all. Under the moonlight, a shadow was cast on the ground. The approaching black shadow almost covered his whole body. Crisis, an extreme sense of crisis, dispelled the crazy thoughts in his mind. He felt that all the hair on his body stood up, and his teeth were uncontrollably clenched. He turned his neck stiffly and looked behind him. A big hairy claw appeared in his vision. Warm blood with the smell of blood sprayed above his head. He looked up little by little, and finally, he saw the owner of the shadow. Cave lion. Why was there a cave lion here? A beast? No, it was not. A beast would not have such a strong power. This was a ferocious beast. Without waiting for him to think more, the sharp fangs in the bloody mouth bit him. He had no power to resist. Ah, in the forest under the moonlight, a shrill scream rang out, startling the invaders who were hiding in other places and causing them to tremble. This was not a scream of being cut by a knife. What on earth had happened to it? Similar things happened everywhere in the area of the drumming tribe. At this moment, not long after those engraved beasts left, at the place where the Yanjiao tribe's fleet stopped, a figure quickly rushed out of the woods, like a ghost, almost without any sound. The beasts around the fleet had run away, so at this moment, there were no ferocious beasts guarding the bank of the tributary where the fleet stopped. This invasion was much more difficult than before. As one of the best at hiding in the drumming tribe, he was one of the few who could smoothly break through the defense line. Originally, he wanted to go directly to the water moon channel of the drumming tribe to grab the water moonstones. However, after seeing the ships on this tributary, he came over. Looking at the big ships in front of him, the man was surprised and doubtful. Were these really not from the longboat tribe? Why were these ships so big? Except for the longboat tribe and those tribes who spent a lot of things to exchange for ships with the longboat tribe, who else could build these ships? After careful observation, he found that the trees used to build ships should be huge, so big that he had never seen them before. Even the chief of the drumming tribe should not have seen such a big tree, right? So, where did the people who owned these ships come from? However, this question did not stay in his mind for long. He thought that since there were such big ships, there must be more good things in them. Maybe there were fire crystals. A look of greed flashed across his face. Because there were warriors staring at him, he decided to go through the water. At this time, the crocodiles of the drumming tribe had left. In his impression, the water was safe at this time. In order to invade the drumming tribe, the people of the drumming tribe had trained themselves well in the water, so it was not difficult for him to go through the water. He went into the water from another place, intending to get close to the biggest ship. In the biggest ship, there must be the most valuable things. Quietly entering the water, he swam towards the fleet from under the water. But as he swam, he found that the water around him was moving. It was not caused by him. What was it? Before he turned back, a big hook-like mouth bit over, clamped his waist, and then the big mouth closed. Blood spread out from under the water. The warriors standing on the ship looked at the dark liquid coming out of the water, as well as the swaying water waves, and moved their eyes to other places expressionlessly, looking for any possible intruders. As for the water, it was better to leave it to the turtle. At the water moon channel, the children of the drumming tribe were seizing the time to get the water moonstones, while the adults looked at them with tense nerves, in case someone suddenly appeared to rob them. But the strange thing was, until now, they had not seen a single intruder. Just now, they heard a scream from not far away, but other than that, they only heard the sound and did not see anyone. In the forest, the battle was still going on. Roar, a beast roar came from the forest. Before the others could think about what it was, another beast roar came. It was different from the previous one, and they could hear that it was made by two different beasts. Two beasts. The hidden people thought. But this was not the end. Then, there was another roar, and another. The forest was trembling. Like a report, the roars came one after another, and they all belonged to different beasts. At this time, standing not far from the drumming tribe, the people who were planning to follow the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe to take advantage of the situation, stopped abruptly. The leader was a little fat. When he heard the beastly roars that penetrated the forest one after another, the fat on his face twitched continuously. His fingers that were holding the knife turned white, and the corners of his lips twitched violently due to nervousness. It was as if someone was slapping his face from the side. Before, they only heard that the drumming tribe had helpers, and did not care at all. But now, they had to care. "Leader, are we still going in?" A warrior behind him asked in a trembling voice. "Something seems wrong," the leader said in a low voice. Although he did not enter the territory of the drumming tribe to see it with his own eyes, he knew that the two tribes who wanted to rob the water moonstones were in trouble. It was not that he did not think that the drumming tribe would turn the tables and resist the joint attack of the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe. He had heard of some similar unexpected things before, but this kind of thing really happened to him, and he could not calm down in a short time. "Leader, look, there is a bird over there," a warrior said to the leader. A group of people looked over. On a high tree not far away, there was a white bird resting. To be exact, it was a falcon, about the same size as Xi's crown kite. They had never seen such a white falcon, and it did not look like a wild one. "What is that? Is it the bird that the drumming tribe exchanged from the feather tribe?" Chapter 236. Many of these birds were used to scout the situation. Therefore, when these people saw this bird, the first thing they thought of was naturally the feather tribe's domesticated birds. "Did it tell the drumming tribe about our actions?" a warrior asked worriedly. They were more afraid of death than the drumming tribe. They didn't want to lose their lives before they could get anything. The leader cursed fiercely, venting the anxiety and dissatisfaction in his heart. "Give me the bow." Taking the bow from his subordinate, the leader pulled the bow into a full moon and stared at the white bird resting on the tree as if it was sleeping. His eyes were full of hatred. Whoosh! The bowstring vibrated. The arrow flew at high speed, making a sharp whistling sound due to the friction with the air. The leaves in front of the arrow were pierced and fell from the branches. Tut! The arrow was nailed into a tree branch, the tail of the arrow was still shaking. However, that was not the target he wanted to shoot. He thought the arrow would definitely hit the target, but it hit nothing. The bird that was standing there just now was gone. Where's the bird? The leader suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. There was something wrong with the drumming tribe. It was definitely not as simple as they thought. Could it be that the people from the central region were involved? On the surface, the tribes from the central region did not say that they would attack the drumming tribe, but who knew if they would do something secretly? Even if it wasn't the big tribes from the central region, if the other tribes from the central region attacked, they would still have to be careful. That bird, maybe it was brought by one of the central tribes. And the roar just now, maybe it was related to the people from the central region. Although he didn't know what happened in the drumming tribe, he was now sure that this was not something they could get involved in. Retreat! The leader threw the bow and shouted. But it was too late. A white shadow flashed by. The leader only felt a chill on his scalp. Something flew over his head. He didn't feel any pain. Only the blood that flowed out blocked his vision. Leader! Leader! Seeing their boss fall down with a piece of his head missing, everyone panicked and shouted as they scattered in all directions. Fear pervaded the forest, both inside and outside of the forest. The white bird shook off the blood and flesh on its claws and continued to find a tree to rest. It did not like to move at night and was chased out by Gigu to have a good night's sleep. However, it did not expect to be attacked. It was brought out of the green land by Gigu and was successfully branded by the shaman of the Yanjiao tribe. It would not attack the people of the Yanjiao tribe, but it would not treat the people of other tribes well. Just as he was about to continue resting, a figure suddenly flew across the sky. The white bird looked at the cha-cha flying above it, then retracted its gaze and continued to rest. Within the drumming tribe. This invasion was nearing its end. It was shorter than any previous invasion the drumming tribe had encountered. All the water moon stones in the water moon passage had been scooped up, and the water gradually became murky. This time, the drumming tribe's harvest was huge. They produced more water moonstones than ever before. The adults protected the children and hurried home. Different from the joy of the drumming tribe's harvest, the invaders, who were still hiding in the forest and could not sneak in or evacuate, were shrouded in the shadow of death. Ao dragged a man and walked towards the center of the drumming tribe. Ha, ha 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 ha. Ji, who was carried by Ao, laughed so hard that his face was distorted, as if he had gone crazy. They had planned to make a lot of money this time, but unexpectedly, none of the people of the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe could leave safely this time. The Yanjiao tribe was so powerful. Why had they never heard of it? Ji was puzzled. If he had only seen the battle of the Yanjiao tribe once, he would not have refused the decision to send 1,000 more people to the tribe. Unfortunately, this Yanjiao seemed to appear out of nowhere and gave the invaders a painful and unforgettable lesson with extremely fierce means. Ji had lost his ability to move now. He knew clearly what would happen if he was caught. The people of the drumming tribe hated him to the core. He controlled the totem power in his body, concentrated it in his heart, and then attacked. Puff! Blood spurted out from Ji's mouth, and he lost his breath. Ao lowered his head and looked at the dead man. His face did not change, and he did not stop walking. He continued to drag the man to the drumming tribe. If he gave this man to the drumming tribe, he might be able to exchange for more things. As for whether this man was alive or dead, it did not matter. Ao really had no feelings for people outside the tribe. Xiao Xian and the others were busy cleaning up. Suddenly, they heard an eagle cry in the sky, and then something was thrown down. The creature that fell on the ground flapped its wings twice, but its wings were injured, so it could not fly. If the people of the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe were here, they would definitely recognize that it was the crown kite that Ku had bought from the feather tribe at a high price. It was the one that had gone on strike before, but now it was caught by Cha-Cha. At this time, it was no longer arrogant and mighty. It shrank like a quail. What kind of bird is this? It looks delicious. More food tonight. Kiki and the others gathered around. Xiao Xian picked up the kite, looked at it, and said, "Not now." Hearing that they couldn't eat it, Kiki and the others lost interest and continued to look for the hidden intruders. Xiao Xian knew that Cha-Cha must have something to do with the invaders. He would bring the bird to the people of the drumming tribe to see if they could get any useful information. If it was useless, then it would be an extra meal. The crown kite, which was bought by the people of the central region at a high price, was listed as food by the people of the Yanjiao tribe. When the sun rose the next day, the drumming tribe had already been cleaned up 3 times. Everything that needed to be cleaned had been cleared. "It's over, it's over." The people of the drumming tribe could not believe it. They were still in a trance. They thought it would be a fierce defensive battle. They wanted to delay until the crocodiles came back. However, it turned out that they had underestimated this Yanjiao tribe. Although there were losses and casualties this time, it was much better than the disastrous situation they had expected. The Yanjiao tribe also suffered casualties this time. They lost 2 warriors, and several were seriously injured. However, this situation was just like going out to hunt. It was all part of their plan. They held a funeral for the dead and watched as their bones were swallowed by the fire seed's flame. The tribe would not let the dead warriors be buried in the wilderness. Instead, they would burn them in the fire seed's flame according to the old method. The shaman said that in this way, the souls of the warriors would be integrated into the fire seed and return to their homeland with everyone. In order to thank the Yanjiao tribe for their help, the chief and shaman of the drumming tribe gave them 10 baskets of water moonstones. These were all gifts from other families, and they were the biggest and brightest. The baskets used to hold the water moonstones were several times bigger than the baskets used by Qin Jia and the others. Ao accepted all of them without hesitation, including many pottery. Although there were already people in the tribe who could make their own pottery after coming here, the people of the Flaming Horns tribe still cherished these things that they didn't have before. After a battle, they had to rest for a few days. The Yanjiao tribe stayed in the drumming tribe for a few more days. During these days, they encountered some trouble. The returning crocodiles were very wary of the few fierce beasts. They often surrounded the fleet in groups. If they were not stopped, they would have gone down to fight. Among them, the snapping turtle was the most special one. Perhaps because it used to live in the same river, it could get along with the crocodiles peacefully. "When everyone calms down, let's leave," Ao said. "Okay, where are we going after this?" the shaman asked. No one spoke. After a while, the shaman called out to Xiao Xian, who was talking to a crocodile below. "Xian." Xiao Xian, who was talking to the black-eyed, mute crocodile, raised his head. He knew that the shaman had something to discuss, so he patted the crocodile's rough head. "Go play by yourself, I still have things to do." Then Xiao Xian was about to leave, but the crocodile bit the corner of his trousers. The mute even rolled a few times. Different from the death roll when tearing up food, this time the crocodile rolled more gently. "What's wrong?" Xiao Xian looked at the crocodile shamelessly in the water. After a few more rolls like this, his trousers would be completely ruined. Letting go of Xiao Xian's trousers, the crocodile looked at Xiao Xian, and then swam to the deeper part of the river. Xiao Xian got on the boat and discussed the next route with the shaman. After the discussion, when he got off the boat, he was blocked by the mute black crocodile again. This time, it did not bite Xiao Xian's trousers, but opened its mouth to Xiao Xian. "Is it stuck in your teeth?" Xiao Xian was not afraid that the crocodile would bite him directly. Under the nervous gazes of Kiki and the others, he calmly approached the crocodile to have a look. There was no meat, but there was a bull-sized stone. The muddy gray stone was the same as the stones at the bottom of the rivers in the drumming tribe. It seemed to be a very common stone, nothing special, and its shape was also irregular. "A stone?" Xiao Xian was confused. "It's a gift for you." Fu Shi, who came here under the orders of the chief, smiled. A gift for me? Xiao Xian did not understand the customs here. Treasure fish will give gifts to people who help them, and the gifts are the stones they bring back. You know, treasure fish leave every year during the rainy season, and come back when the river rises after the full moon. I heard from the shaman that when they come back, they will also bring back some stones and spit them at the bottom of the water moon canal. And some of these stones will become water moon stones in the future. If someone in the tribe gets a stone from the treasure fish, they will put it in their own section of the water moon canal. When the full moon comes, the stone will become a water moon stone. Fu Shi told Xiao Xian everything he knew. Xiao Xian took the stone out of the crocodile's mouth. This stone will become a water moon stone. I heard that as long as it is placed in the water moon canal, it will become a water moon stone. Fu Shi said. In other words, to become a water moon stone, this stone must be placed in the water moon canal of the drumming tribe. Moreover, the success rate was not 100%, and there was no definite time. However, Xiao Xian did not insist on turning this stone into a water moon stone. He was still very happy about this special gift. The year you left, it left with the group for the first time. When it came back, you also went back to the tribe. Fu Shi said, so this time, it finally saw you again, so it wanted to make up for the gift. Thank you. I will keep it well. Xiao Xian said. Chapter 237. Putting the stone into the animal skin bag, Xiao Xian looked at Fu Shi and asked, what's the matter? Oh, yes, there's something. When he saw Bao Yu give the stone to someone, he was so focused on that he almost forgot about the chief's order. Because the crisis of the drumming tribe had been resolved, there wouldn't be any big changes for at least a year. Hearing that the Yanjiao tribe would leave in a few days, the chief Fan Mu planned to invite several important people of the Yanjiao tribe to a banquet. This was the custom of the drumming tribe. For important guests, they would take out the best food to show their gratitude. However, there were too many people in the Yanjiao tribe, so they couldn't invite all of them. Therefore, they only invited the senior leaders of the Yanjiao tribe and the warriors who had played an important role in this incident. As for the others, although they couldn't go with them, they would send some food. Xiao Xian took Fu Shi to see Ao and the shaman. They also agreed to go to the central area of the drumming tribe that night. The reason why the banquet was held at night instead of during the day was that Fan Mu wanted to use the water moon stone to show his respect. In the evening, Ao selected 50 people to go with the shaman. Xiao Xian was among them. Probably in order to take care of the Yanjiao tribe, there were many water moon stones as light sources from the fleet to the place where the banquet would be held, so that the people of the Yanjiao tribe could see the surroundings clearly. At this time, the moonlight was enough, and the light of the water moon stones was not inferior to the moonlight. Walking in the forest, Xiao Xian felt like he had turned on a street lamp. There was an open space in front of Fan Mu's house. There were big fires on the ground. Food was being roasted on the fire, and soup was boiling in a big pot. Water moon stones were piled on the wooden pillars around, illuminating the surroundings. It was a very simple banquet, but it was considered grand here. The warriors of the Yanjiao tribe didn't mind such a banquet. When they were in the tribe, they would sit in a circle around the fire, roast food, and chat. Naturally, they wouldn't feel uncomfortable. At this dinner, in addition to expressing his gratitude, Fan Mu also asked the Flaming Horns tribe if they needed to go to the Pu tribe to trade. Every year, shortly after the Water Moon Festival, the drumming tribe would send a trading team to the Pu tribe to trade for something. When the Yanjiao warriors heard that they could go to other tribes to see the trade, their eyes lit up as they looked at Ao, hoping that Ao would agree. Ao was silent for a few seconds as he chewed on the meat. Then, he said, there's no need for all of them to go. Just 10 of them will do. As he spoke, Ao picked 10 people on the spot, including Xiao Xian. After all, Xiao Xian was familiar with the situation there. Ao felt more assured with him around. Chief, me too. Kiki, who was not named, hurriedly reminded him. Ao glanced at him and said nothing. He always felt that this guy was unreliable. Kiki did make a lot of contributions in this defense battle. The number of prey, he reported, was in the top 5. The people of the Yanjiao tribe wouldn't lie about the number of their prey. They didn't dare to. In his mind, when facing the chief, shaman, and team leaders, there was no such thing as lying or false, unless one didn't know how to count. Generally speaking, the number of prey reported was true and trustworthy. Kiki had made such a great contribution to himself, but he was not allowed to trade with them. He felt a little sad. When the banquet ended and the people of the Yanjiao tribe returned, Kiki was still pestering Ao, trying to persuade him to agree. Before leaving, Xiao Xian was one step behind Ao and the others. He asked Qing Yi, the leader of the trading team of the drumming tribe, about the current situation of the Pu tribe. When Xiao Xian finished his inquiry and left, Ao and the others had already returned to their resting places and were ready to sleep. Xiao Xian walked alone in the forest. The water moonstones around him hadn't been put away yet. They were lined up on one side like street lamps, and the shadows of the branches swayed on the ground. Looking up, Xiao Xian looked at the night sky. 2 moons had begun to fade, hanging in the dark sky. There were no stars around. There were no electric lights, no pollution, no mechanical tools, and no comfortable hotels. What he breathed in was a slightly moist air with the smell of the forest. What he could see was endless nature. The night wind blew, and the leaves on the trees around him rustled. Xiao Xian could clearly feel the changes in the airflow when the wind hit the trees. Closing his eyes without sight, Xiao Xian's other senses became more sensitive. He could hear the friction between the leaves, the laughter of the drumming tribe people in the distance, and the sound of crocodiles swimming in the pool. The changes in the wind's speed, the direction of the airflow, and his sensitive senses allowed Xiao Xian to distinguish the trees around him, and where there were obstacles. He didn't need to see to know where the way out was. He lifted his foot, 1 step, 2 steps, he avoided the tree trunks, bypassed the bushes, and stepped over the protruding soil on the ground. Xiao Xian walked faster and faster, smoother and smoother. Everything around him had already formed a 3-dimensional picture in his mind. From this picture, he could accurately determine where the obstacles were. He even had a feeling that if he wanted, as long as he had enough time, he could even count how many branches were as thick as an arm on the 10-meter-tall tree next to him. He could even count the number of leaves on each branch. He could do it. This feeling was getting clearer and clearer. Maintaining this state, Xiao Xian slowly blended into the natural forest. In this unfamiliar forest, he closed his eyes and walked freely. As he walked, Xiao Xian noticed that on the 3-dimensional picture formed in his mind, there were light spots. Most of them were slightly further away from him. Those moving light spots were faintly white, similar to the water moonstones. Were those people from the drumming tribe? Feeling carefully, Xiao Xian could vaguely feel some familiarity. Fu Shi, Qing Yi, Fan Mu, and some others. Some of them were at the place where the banquet was held, and some were patrolling in the forest. There was only one exception. In front of him, there was a moving light spot, coming this way. This light spot was not like the white of the drumming tribe, but an inconspicuous gray. If one was not careful, it would be easy to miss this light spot. Not from the drumming tribe? Very strange. Naturally, it was not from the Yanjiao tribe. Then, who was it? Xiao Xian opened his eyes and looked forward. There was almost no sound of footsteps, but the other party was approaching. Xiao Xian stood in the same place, holding the hilt of his knife, quietly looking over there. Probably because he had discovered Xiao Xian, the other party no longer hid his movements. His footsteps gradually became louder, but he also controlled the sound and rhythm, just like the speed and sound of the patrolling members of the drumming tribe. A strong figure came out. Looking at the figure, it was similar to many of the warriors of the drumming tribe, and also dressed like them. "Are you from the Yanjiao tribe?" The other party's rough voice was casual and familiar, just like the other members of the drumming tribe treated the Yanjiao tribesmen. As the other party slowly approached, Xiao Xian also saw his face clearly. It was a very standard appearance of the drumming tribe. "Are you from the patrol team? What's your name?" Xiao Xian asked. The other party smiled, seeming a little embarrassed to speak. "I'm just, lazy, so I came out for a walk," the other party said, but his words slowly slowed down. Finally, he stopped before he finished his sentence. "So sharp." The other party looked at the knife in Xiao Xian's hand, and then looked at Xiao Xian's defensive posture without any suspicion. He also understood that he had been recognized, so he no longer wasted time making up excuses. Even the tone of his voice changed. "Actually, I'm just here to watch the fun," he said. It was impossible to tell his age or gender from his voice. Crack, 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 with the soft sound of bones cracking, Xiao Xian noticed that the other party's figure was changing. He had gone from being tall and strong to being thin, as if he had been deflated. His face was also changing, no longer looking like a member of the drumming tribe. Bang! There was a muffled sound like a wooden stake falling to the ground. The other party suddenly stomped on the ground. His legs, which had become as thin as firewood, seemed to have the strength of steel. The shock waves caused by the powerful force shot out from where his feet touched. The weeds on the ground were violently torn apart, breaking into tiny pieces. The slightly dry and hard pieces of soil between the weeds were instantly pulverized into dust. The other party stomped on the ground and rushed straight at Xiao Xian. His entire leg was like a Cold War knife, drawing an arc in the air, bringing with it a strong force that cut through the air towards Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian did not intend to take this kick head-on. Instead, he chose to retreat and avoid it. After missing the kick, the other party did not stop. Like a poisonous snake, he stomped on the ground and bounced up again, as if he was going to attack again. However, to Xiao Xian's surprise, after this stomp, the other party's figure disappeared from where he was. He did not hide, he really ran away. Xiao Xian was speechless. From the moment the other party was exposed, he had only taken 2 steps. In the first step, he kicked toward Xiao Xian. His momentum was as fierce as the claws of a beast, the fangs of a poisonous snake, as if he wanted to fight to the death with Xiao Xian. However, in the second step, he suddenly changed his style and ran away like a bolt of lightning. Xiao Xian did not chase after him. The other party's actions were strange and he ran away quickly. It would not be easy for him to catch him. Moreover, the other party was not weak. Furthermore, that person gave Xiao Xian a feeling that he did not have any murderous intent. Even when he kicked out, it was just power, but there was no real murderous intent. He just opened his mouth and revealed his sharp teeth and claws, scaring people into retreating immediately. Xiao Xian looked in the direction of the other party's disappearance, wondering who he was. When he was in the drumming tribe, he also met people who were good at disguising and hiding, but they were not from the drumming tribe. Was this the robber that the people of the drumming tribe once talked about? His purpose was to steal the water moonstones. But it should not be. There were so many along the way, and none of them were missing. So, as he said, he was just here to watch the fun. Encountering a suspicious person, Xiao Xian naturally would not hide it. He took out the wooden whistle and blew it. The patrolling members of the drumming tribe, who were closest to him, came over. On the Fanmu tribe's side, people who had not left heard the whistle and also came over to Xiao Xian. They did not understand the whistle of the Yanjiao tribe, but they knew that if it was a small matter, Xiao Xian would not blow the whistle. Not only the people of the drumming tribe, but also the people of the Yanjiao tribe who had just returned to their temporary residence, immediately got up. However, they did not go to Xiao Xian, but vigilantly looked around. They knew what Xiao Xian meant from the whistle. They just needed to be vigilant. There was no need to go over. Chapter 238. Xiao Xian told the drumming tribe about his encounter with the strange man. After the people of the drumming tribe carefully inspected their territory, they hurriedly counted their own water moon stones to see if they had lost any. This had happened many times in the past. They thought that the strange man must be a robber, but after checking, they didn't find any missing water moonstones, so they were relieved. Every year, some water moonstones were stolen, but they couldn't catch the culprit. They could only guess, but other than the robbers, they couldn't think of anyone else. The robbers were a very special tribe. The members of the tribe were relatively independent and didn't live together all year round. This tribe was very mysterious. The drumming tribe had limited information, so Xiao Xian couldn't get more information from them. It wasn't stolen. This time, it shouldn't be a robber, right? Fu Shi's wife Ping said. I'm not sure. No one knows who he is. We can't find him. Fu Shi sighed. After the discussion, they found that no one's water moonstones were stolen this year, so they went back. Xiao Xian didn't stay too long either. After the drumming tribe people left, he also left. He found that the shaman of the drumming tribe didn't look too good, but since he didn't say anything, Xiao Xian couldn't force him to tell. He just guessed that if it was really a robber, they must have stolen something. This time, no one else's water moonstones were stolen. Could it be that the shaman's water moonstones were stolen? Xiao Xian didn't know, but he guessed right. After the drumming tribe people left, the shaman of the drumming tribe called the chief over for a private conversation. This year's water moonstone was stolen. The shaman of the drumming tribe said with a cold face as he looked at the empty box. Every year, after the water moonstones were harvested, they would pick out the biggest one and give it to the shaman to judge. Then they would choose the biggest and brightest one with the best quality. It was also called the Water Moon King Stone by the people of the drumming tribe. This stone would not be taken out for trade. Instead, it was kept by the shaman as one of the offerings during the ceremony. But now, the king's stone was lost. The shaman's house was heavily guarded. Even the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe couldn't sneak in and steal the king's stone. Sure enough, it's a robber. However, the robber who came this time is ranked higher, Fan Mu said helplessly. If Xiao Xian hadn't told them about the abnormality today, perhaps they wouldn't have realized that the Water Moon King's stone was missing until the ceremony. Choose another one in secret, the shaman said. In the past, the stolen Water Moon stones could not be recovered. Now that there was a higher grade one, it was even more difficult. Perhaps the other party had already left the drumming tribe. That's the only way. At the same time, a figure escaped the search of the drumming tribe and left the area. After leaving the territory of the drumming tribe, they ran for a while before sitting down on a stone at the foot of the mountain. What? Have we been discovered? A surprised voice came from behind him. Judging from the voice, it was a woman, but her age couldn't be determined. The man sitting on the stone didn't turn his head and continued to beat his legs. Don't mention it. I met a strange guy from the Yanjiao tribe. He recognized me at a glance and almost attacked me. Fortunately, I ran fast enough. If we really fought, I would have been delayed by him. When the Yanjiao tribe arrived, I wouldn't have been able to get away. The Yanjiao tribe again? I've never heard of them before. They suddenly appeared, and their strength is not weak. Although they can't be compared with the big tribes in the central region, they can't be underestimated. What's more, they have several ferocious beasts, the woman said in surprise. After a pause, she asked, Did you get it? The man sitting on the stone took out a leather bag from his animal skin coat and took out a shining stone. It was like a high-wattage light bulb, illuminating the surroundings instantly. This was the Water Moon King stone stolen from the drumming tribe. I originally wanted to go to the Yanjiao tribe's ship to have a look. Maybe there are many good things. What a pity. The man sitting on the stone said regretfully as he beat his legs. This Yanjiao tribe is interesting. Should we follow them? The woman said with interest. That's fine, but we have to stay away. The previous method didn't work. I have a feeling that it might work in other tribes, but not in this tribe. As far as I know, a few idiots have already started to act according to the old method. The woman's voice had a hint of ridicule. Oh, then let's wait and see how they die. At least they can make room for the people behind them, the man sitting on the stone said lightly. The Yanjiao tribesmen didn't know that they were being watched. Even if they knew, they wouldn't be afraid. In the next 2 days, Xiao Xian took 10 people from the Yanjiao tribe and went to the Pu tribe with the trading team of the drumming tribe. They exchanged a lot of things with Xiao. Even if they didn't need them, others in the tribe might need them. After coaxing and pestering, Ao finally agreed. Kiki also followed them to the Pu tribe. For him, things that were rare in other people's eyes were not at all attractive to him, except for those fat frogs that jumped everywhere. If he hadn't promised Ao that he would listen to Xiao Xian's words and not touch the frogs of the Pu tribe, he might have secretly taken away some of the fat frogs of the Pu tribe and eaten them. Now, the surrounding tribes all knew that in order to deal with the crisis, the drumming tribe had found help from a tribe called Yanjiao. It wasn't a famous tribe. However, this time, the people sent by the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe were almost completely wiped out. Even a bird didn't come back. Therefore, when they saw the Yanjiao tribesmen who came with the drumming tribe, everyone was curious. However, the Yanjiao tribesmen didn't feel that they were being watched at all. They just did what they should do and asked questions whenever they had doubts. Gradually, they became familiar with this kind of trading. The chief said that they would also need this kind of trading in the future, so they had to master it. In addition to the frog poison and other things from Xiao Xian also exchanged some fishing nets from the Luo tribe, who arrived at the Pu tribe on the same day as them. When they sailed, they could catch some fish. Here, unlike in the hunting forest, they could get whatever they wanted on the spot. In a place dominated by human tribes, they had to exchange a lot of resources and store them in their hands. They could use them whenever they needed, which saved more time. After returning from the Pu tribe, the Yanjiao tribe was ready to set off again. When they left, many people of the drumming tribe came to see them off, led by Fan Mu and the shaman of the drumming tribe. In addition to people, there were also groups of crocodiles. Those crocodiles probably came together to cheer. After all, the ferocious beasts that troubled them had finally left. There are some smaller groups of tribes ahead. They may shoot arrows to harass us. Be careful. Xiao Xian said. The warriors of the Yanjiao tribe standing outside the cabin were all holding wooden and stone shields to defend against the arrows. However, when the boat sailed past, they didn't see any arrows. Xiao Xian thought about the reason and suddenly felt like laughing. He remembered a joke from a friend in his previous life. You used to drive a shabby car and you dared to crash. Now that you have a luxury car, you don't dare to crash. When Xiao Xian was on a raft, he was constantly harassed by arrows. Now he was on a boat, but he didn't see any arrows. The people hiding behind the trees on both sides of the river didn't take any action. They weren't stupid. They knew who they could mess with and who they couldn't touch. In the early morning, the surrounding air was a little humid. There were mountains of different heights and forests on both sides of the river. However, compared with the hunting ground, it was much inferior. In the past, when they were still on the other side of the river, they could climb thousands of feet high cliffs and climb over high mountains in the hunting ground. That was a kind of conquest. But here, the mountains were not as high as in the hunting ground, and the beasts here were not as strong as in the hunting ground. However, there were people here, other tribes, and more challengers. Here, the threat of people was far greater than that of the high mountains and fierce beasts. Ao's purpose was achieved. After the incident in the drumming tribe, the people of the Yanjiao tribe had a preliminary understanding of life here, and their mentality had changed. A new challenge, a new life, they had to adapt to conquer. Xiao Xian stood at the bow of the boat and told Ao and the two team leaders about the news he had heard from the Pu tribe. In the past 2 years, which tribes had disappeared, and which tribes had no sense of existence before. By the way, Yan Shua asked me if I could bring some of his acquaintances here. Xian, what do you think? Ao asked. Bring them, not only here, but also the wanderer friends of Yan Ji and the others in the Longboat tribe. We can pick them up when the time comes. Although they don't have strong fighting power, they can help us in other ways. Ao nodded. In this case, you go with Yan Shua and the others to bring them here. Okay. And, Chief, our tribe is back. The wanderers in Yanjiao may feel it. Xiao Xian said. Speaking of the wanderers in the tribe like Yan Ji and the others, Ao was refreshed, indeed. Even if they hadn't reached the old land and lit the fire there, maybe they could meet many wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe. Chapter 239. Originally, Xiao Xian planned to go with Yan Shua to bring the wanderers who were with Yan Shua. In the original plan, they didn't go through there. There were too many forks in the river, so the tribe's fleet would go through another waterway. But before they left, the shaman stopped the people who were about to leave. The shaman wanted the fleet to go to the place where Yan Shua used to live. Xiao Xian told him that there were many wanderers and slaves who lived a hard life there. Let them go and have a look. This was what the shaman said at that time. He wanted the Yanjiao tribesmen who had been isolated outside to see the wanderers who lived in the cracks. They wanted to see the two lives of others after the tribe was destroyed, wanderers and slaves. The shaman wanted to teach the Yanjiao tribesmen a lesson. Since they crossed the river, the shaman's presence was much lower. When they were in the tribe, many things were decided after the discussion between the chief and the shaman. But after they came here, the shaman rarely intervened. Most of the time, it was Ao who commanded in the front. Now the shaman rarely expressed his opinion, so naturally no one objected. The fleet took a long detour. From the original plan, they came to the waterway that the traveling team of the Pu tribe often traveled. On the land next to the Y-shaped river fork, the slaves were called to work early in the morning. There were many large and small bamboo rafts on the river. These were the slaves who were fishing. When they were there, the wanderers didn't dare to fight with them, because they would be besieged. Some supervisors with whips on the shore stared at the river to prevent anyone from being lazy and also to guard against the wanderers. These supervisors were only a little better than the slaves at the lowest level. They weren't at the level of titled slaves, but at least they had some more power from the slave owners. They were stronger than those who hadn't awakened their totem power. Staying here was also a deterrent to the wanderers who were ready to make trouble. Those who could climb from the lowest level to the supervisor level were all ruthless people. It could be seen from their eyes that they were ruthless. A little further away from the slaves, some wanderers also began to work. A few wanderers who were dressed better than the others yawned and walked slowly to the river. They drank some water and washed their faces with the river to wake up. Looking at the slaves who had already started working, the leader spat in that direction. Boss, recently, some of the travelers have started to move again, right? Someone asked. If there are more travelers, we can also get some work from the slaves, another person said. The leader stood up and wiped his face. Keep a close eye on it. Don't let anyone steal it. Now, in the wanderers' area, the only people who could fight against them were the people that Yan Shua had brought with him. The two sides had not directly killed each other, but they were both on guard against each other. Didn't you hear that they would leave in the future? Go to Yan Shua's tribe. Someone said. Leave. Chi. A bearded man next to him sneered, mocking those words. They can only talk about it here. How long can they live if they really leave this place? Perhaps, in less than 2 days, they will be eaten by wild beasts or killed by people from other tribes. Not bad. The leader nodded in agreement. Let's not talk about whether they have the ability to leave. Even if they can leave, who knows what Yen Shua's tribe is like. The wanderers live under the control of the tribe. It's even more difficult. The people of the tribe will kill whoever they don't like, especially those small tribes that lack food. They may even treat the wanderers as food. It's not like we haven't seen it before. If you want to go to the big tribes, those in the central region. What do the big tribes in the central region look like? A younger man asked. The leader suddenly felt proud. He raised his chin and signaled the people next to him to make way. He went over and sat on a high stone. Then he talked about some of the scenes that he had seen when he was drifting outside. In fact, there were many scenes that he couldn't remember. It was too vague. But it didn't matter. He just needed to scare these people. Especially the longboat tribe. They are the real strong people on the water. Their boats are much higher than our houses. They are not like the simple rafts that the slaves use. They are just some simple rafts and they even leak. The traveling tribes around are not so good either. As he was talking, the leader suddenly realized that after talking for so long, the others didn't react at all. Not only that, but they were also looking at other places. Were they looking at the slaves who were fishing with nets on the water? What are you looking at? The leader said discontentedly. No, boss. There are boats over there. A man pointed tremblingly. How many times have I said that the boats that the slaves use can't be considered boats? The leader was even more discontented. Really, boss. Then it's the same as the boats you said. They are taller than our houses. Another man also said. Yes, yes. The others nodded vigorously. Bigger than our houses? The man sitting cross-legged on the stone on the shore turned to look at the direction that the others pointed. He was so shocked that he almost sprained his waist. On the river in the distance, boats were coming over. Each boat was taller than the houses they lived in. Especially the 3 largest boats, it reminded the leader of the vague memory that he had once encountered the longboat tribe's fleet. Longboat tribe? The leader exclaimed. No, that's not right. The longboat tribe doesn't have that kind of totem. It's more like. A thin man next to the leader pulled his long beard that he hadn't shaved for a long time. The pattern on the boats looks familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. I think I've seen it before too. Someone agreed. In the Wanderers area. Wanderers area? Impossible. Look, they're coming. Will they stop here? If they stop, we'll definitely get something, right? Looking at such a situation, they knew that they were not to be trifled with. They didn't have any thoughts of killing and robbing anymore. They just stared at the fleet that was getting closer and closer. On the river, the slaves were already shouting and moving their rafts to the riverbank. If they stayed on the river, they would be blocking the way. They didn't even dare to offend the travelers on rafts, let alone such a fleet. They didn't even need the supervisor to whip them. They were all afraid that they would fall behind and get into trouble. The appearance of a fleet was naturally a big matter. It had to be reported. The supervisor had already shouted and told the higher-ups about what happened on the river. The slave master wasn't here, but he also left the supervisor here to enslave them. Many people who were still in the Wanderers area and didn't go out also approached the riverbank to see the fleet that suddenly appeared. Many of them had lived until now and had never been out of here. They also hadn't seen such a big ship. Naturally, they felt that it was very strange. The fleet gradually approached the riverbank. The waves washed the sand on the riverbank. The slaves were already waiting there. The supervisor who held the whip had already changed his face. He put away all his ruthlessness and had a fawning expression on his face. If they did a good job, they would be rewarded. After the ship reached the riverbank, they didn't put down the ladder. A few warriors jumped down from the ship one after another. The one leading was Yen Shuo. Looking at this familiar yet strange place, Yen Shuo's heart was filled with emotions. A supervisor hung the whip on his back and trotted forward. He wanted to say something, but after seeing Yen Shuo's appearance, all his words were stuck in his throat. He knew Yen Shuo. When Yen Shuo's family left with the others, he was standing by the riverbank. Yen Shuo glanced around. His gaze stopped for a moment on the few wanderers who were as stiff as stone statues not far away. Then he looked in the direction of the wanderers' area. "This is the place where you used to live?" The warrior who jumped down asked Yen Shuo. "Yes, this is the place. It has changed a lot." While talking, Yen Shuo took them to find his friends who had stayed here before. Xiao Xian did not disembark. He stood on the ship and looked at the stone houses that were nearly 10 meters tall in the distance. When he left, there were no such houses. It was obvious that the slaves built these houses in the past 2 years. They belonged to the slave owners. If it was just for the wanderers to live, it would only need some simple wooden houses. The place for the slaves to live was even worse. It wasn't like the buildings behind the forest that looked like a camp. The slave master seems to have a big plan. Xiao Xian said in his heart. Originally, he only came to pick up a few people. He didn't expect to see the large stone houses that were built like a camp. If he didn't stand on the ship and just stood on the ground, it was very likely that his sight would be blocked by the forest. Not long after, Yen Ji brought back more than 10 people. Some of them were familiar with him, and some were new members of the small group in these 2 years. They all wanted to leave with the Yanjiao tribe, and Ao agreed. The people who were taken on the ship cried with joy, as if they were reborn. The other wanderers who were standing on the river bank and watching had endless envy and jealousy in their eyes. Who would have thought that the person who was so miserable in the past would have such an opportunity? Who would have thought that the person who was stubborn and lived a hard life with his wife and children would become a totem warrior? Life was unpredictable. The fleet of the Yanjiao tribe didn't stay here for a long time. They left after picking up the people. The shaman just let the people of the tribe see the miserable situation of the wanderers and slaves here, to give them a warning. The shaman's purpose was achieved. No matter the people who followed Yen Ji to the wanderers' area, or the people who stood on the ship and watched the slaves who were numbly working with whips, they all had a great psychological impact. In the war, if they were defeated, except for death, they would probably be in such a situation. Therefore, no matter who they faced in the future, they couldn't be defeated. They absolutely couldn't be defeated. The fleet of the Yanjiao tribe came and left, and continued to sail along the new route they had planned. The wanderers and slaves on this land had already remembered the name of the Yanjiao tribe, and the two-horn totem pattern wrapped in flames on the sails. The steward, who was left behind by the slave master Shu, went back after the fleet left. He took out the animal skin roll left by the slave master from the box, dipped the animal hair brush in paint, and wrote down what happened today. The master had said that if the Yanjiao tribe really appeared, he should write a letter to inform him. The Yanjiao tribe really existed. Chapter 240. In addition to the people Yen Shuo knew, on the way, the tribe also met some wanderers who were looking for the fire seed. Xiao Xian had never seen them before, but since they could feel the fire seed and follow the fire seed, they must be the descendants of the Yanjiao tribe. Many of them had faint totem runes on their bodies when they came over, just like Yen Shuo. Some of these people were weak, skinny, malnourished, injured, and so on. They didn't seem to be in a good condition, but according to them, they were much better than before. 2 years ago, faint totem patterns suddenly appeared on their bodies, and their strength also increased a lot. Today, the totem patterns appeared again, and they felt something strange again, so they hurried to come here. Ao cleared 2 boats, one for the wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe, and the other for the wanderers whose tribe was destroyed. Of course, Ao would also send people to watch each boat. Ao was now vigilant, no matter if they were wanderers from other tribes or from his own tribe. He knew that Yen Ji and the others had met some traitors, and that many people here were not as loyal as the original tribe members, so he needed to wait and see. After waiting and seeing, he was happy to accept those who were trustworthy and welcome them back, but those who were not determined were another matter. In the cabin of the central boat. How many people are there? The shaman asked Xiao Xian. 27 wanderers from other tribes, and 49 wanderers from our tribe, almost 50. Xiao Xian said. Among the wanderers from other tribes, there were He Er and the others who had stayed in the Longboat tribe. The fleet of the Yanjiao tribe didn't pass by the Longboat tribe. Ao didn't want to directly contact the Longboat tribe, so now the fleet took another route. After all, only a few people can feel the fire seed. The shaman sighed. They can only feel it in a limited range, and they can only feel it in the vicinity of the sailing route. Now the fire seed hasn't really burned in the old haunt. When it really burns, more people will be able to feel it. Xiao Xian said. Well, Xian, you keep an eye there, I feel something strange there. Compared with other people, including the two team leaders, the shaman actually believed in Xiao Xian's ability more. I feel it too. Alright, you rest first. I'll go take a look and find out who's trying to take advantage of the situation. Xiao Xian put down the map in his hand and asked Gue Zhe to give him 2 packets of medicine before he left the cabin. Xiao Xian took the medicine to the wanderers of the tribe and asked Mai to boil a pot of medicine for them. Then he took another bag of medicine to the boat where the wanderers were. Although the wanderers whose tribes had been destroyed decided to follow them, they were still afraid of the strange totem warriors. When they saw that Xiao Xian did not have a knife in his hand, they relaxed a little. The warriors who had come in before were all holding stone tools. Coupled with their imposing manner, it would be strange if the wanderers were not afraid. It was rare to see someone who looked easy to talk to. Several of them knew Xiao Xian. When they saw Xiao Xian, they were not so afraid. They even smiled and greeted him, but they were careful in their words, for fear of offending Xiao Xian by saying something wrong. Have Yan Ji and Yan Shua been here? Xiao Xian looked at the people in the cabin and asked. Yes, they have just left. He Er, who had been brought here by Yan Ji and Jiao Wu from the Longboat tribe 2 days ago, answered hurriedly. Xiao Xian handed him the medicine. Boil this medicine for everyone. It will help your wounds heal faster. There was a simple stove outside. He Er thanked Xiao Xian and went out to boil the medicine. Xiao Xian gave him the medicine and lifted his foot to leave. However, at the moment when he turned around, 2 black shadows shot out from Xiao Xian's hands. They brushed past the hair of several wanderers in front of him and shot towards 2 people leaning in the corner. The 2 people, a man and a woman, were young. They were with the wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe that they had met on the way. It was said that they knew each other. There were 7 wanderers from other tribes who had been brought here, including these 2 people. Men and women were not separated here, and no one dared to mess around here. There were Yanjiao people outside, so they all wanted to behave well. Naturally, they all stayed obediently. After entering the cabin, the man and the woman began to communicate with others, but they did not speak much these 2 days. Especially when the Yanjiao tribe warriors came in, they basically did not speak. Several times, the Yanjiao tribe warriors came in and glanced at the young woman many times. Every time when everyone thought that the Yanjiao tribe warriors had taken a fancy to the woman, the Yanjiao warriors would leave. Everyone saw the young woman shrinking in the corner. They all wondered if it was because the warriors always looked at her that she was so scared that she hid in the corner. For this reason, there was even a young wanderer in front of her. At this time, no one in the cabin expected Xiao Xian to suddenly attack. When the 2 wanderers saw Xiao Xian's action, they were so surprised that their eyes widened instantly. They did not have time to dodge and felt a sharp pain in their necks. It was like being stabbed by a burning stone awl. The pain came suddenly and fiercely. Moreover, this kind of pain quickly spread through every nerve and spread to every part of his body. It was as if countless stone awls had formed and pierced into every muscle and every part of his internal organs. It was as if they had taken root and could not be pulled out. This kind of pain that came in an instant and spread in a very short time made them want to scream and jump up. As soon as they moved, they were forcibly pressed down by a strong force. The man also wanted to take out a small stone knife hidden in his animal skin coat, but Xiao Xian lifted him up forcibly. The next moment, his face directly hit a thick wooden shield on the ground, which was left by the warriors on the ship. His head was not clear, and after being pressed and hit, he became more dizzy and painful. After a few seconds, he really fainted, and 2 streaks of blood flowed from his nose. The young woman did not persist for long and fainted. No one in the cabin expected Xiao Xian to suddenly attack. For a moment, the cabin was dead silent. Just now, they thought that this person was easy to talk to and was not as fierce as the others. But now, he attacked so quickly. The wanderers thought, sure enough, the Yinjiao tribe was like other tribes, killing wanderers casually. They thought that they would be reborn. If they knew someone in the tribe would not be too harsh on them. At least, they would not kill them indiscriminately. But now, there were already 2 wanderers who were suddenly treated like this, and no one knew whether they were dead or alive. For a moment, the mood of the wanderers in the cabin was complicated. Not only the wanderers, but also the several totem warriors of the Yinjiao tribe who were guarding here were very puzzled by Xiao Xian's behavior. However, they would not doubt Xiao Xian's motives. In their view, Xiao Xian had made so many contributions to the tribe. What he was doing now must be right, even if it was not right. As for the wanderers' thoughts, they did not care at all. Compared with Xiao Xian, the wanderers were really nothing in the eyes of the Yinjiao tribe's warriors. Compared with Xiao Xian, who was more important and who was less important. They did not need to use their brains to think about it. Chapter 241. While the wanderers in the cabin and the warriors of the Yinjiao tribe who came in after hearing the noise had their own thoughts, they suddenly heard a cracking sound coming from the bodies of the 2 people who had fallen to the ground. The sound was not loud, but because no one was talking in the cabin, it was strangely quiet. Therefore, the people in the cabin heard the sound coming from the 2 people. Everyone turned in that direction at the same time and saw the 2 people's figures slowly changing. The 2 people who originally looked thin and weak due to their injuries and long and arduous lives were now elongated and bulging. Although they were not very strong, they were much better than their sickly and weak appearance just now. The warriors of the Yinjiao tribe felt danger from the 2 people. The wanderers in the cabin were also stunned. No matter how bad their eyes were, they could see that there was something wrong with the 2 people. This kind of change was not something that the wanderers could do. Xian, who are these 2 people? A warrior of the Yinjiao tribe asked. They should be people from other tribes who have sneaked in. Xiao Xian did not say much. He told the people in the cabin to remember to take medicine, and then left the ship with the 2 people who had fainted. After Xiao Xian left, the wanderers in the cabin suddenly felt relieved. It turned out that he did not attack them for no reason, but because he saw that something was wrong. Thinking that there were totem warriors from other tribes hiding in their group, the wanderers became alert. They only stayed with the people they knew and kept a distance from the people they did not know. On the other side, Xiao Xian took the 2 people to another big ship, where Ao and the 2 team leaders were. Are they the ones? Ao looked at the 2 people who had fainted and asked. They had just been called over by Xiao Xian, who said that people from other tribes had sneaked in. Hearing this, they did not care about anything else and immediately rushed over. It's them. Maybe they have been watching us since the beginning of the drumming tribe. Xiao Xian said. Who are these 2 people? Ta asked. I'm guessing that they're from Bandit. Before we left, the drumming tribe lost something. It might have been something important. The shaman of the drumming tribe kept it, but it was stolen. Xiao Xian told Xiao Xian about his guess. That night, Xiao Xian found something strange. Everyone knew about it, but they didn't know that it was the shaman of the drumming tribe who had lost something. To be able to steal from a shaman in a tribe, that thief must be very capable. Ao and the others immediately became serious. It's them. Ao pointed at the two unconscious people. No, the person from that night wasn't caught. He escaped. These two should be robbers too, but they aren't as good as that person, Xiao Xian said. Even if they were not as good as the one who stole from the drumming tribe that night, these two people could not be underestimated. Since they dared to sneak into the Yanjiao tribe, could it be that they also wanted something from the tribe? Ao and the other two instantly thought of the fire crystals they had brought with them. A murderous look flashed across their eyes. We can't let him live. The three of them said at the same time. I know we can't let him live, but I want to know more from them. For example, the thief who could enter and leave the drumming tribe at will that night. Maybe he's also watching us, but he hasn't shown up yet. The two unconscious people were hit by the wooden thorns thrown by Xiao Xian. The thorns were smeared with a kind of plant poison brought back from the other side of the river. It could knock down a totem warrior in a short time, but the effect was as fast as it came. About an hour later, the two people woke up one after another. In the face of Ao and the others' questioning, they didn't tell the truth at all. It wasn't until Xiao Xian told them about the thief he met that night that they reacted a little. Who is that person? Xiao Xian asked. I don't know, the woman said. Her breasts rose and fell with her breath. When she was brought here by Xiao Xian, her animal skin coat was also damaged. The temptation inside was partly hidden and partly visible because of the light. She looked at Ao and the others who were a few steps away with a pleading look in her eyes. I only followed you because I was curious. I didn't steal anything from you. Please don't kill me. Because their hands and feet were tied, the poison in their bodies hadn't completely dispersed. Their mobility was limited. They could only move their bodies slightly and couldn't make any big movements. Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows when he saw the woman twisting her body and rubbing her animal skin coat even more. He looked at the three people behind him. This woman had a good plan. Perhaps she had experienced many similar things before, but this time, she met people from the Yanjiao tribe. This was a group of stones. In their minds, people who were classified as enemies or suspected to be enemies, regardless of gender, age, or appearance, would not be merciful. The man didn't say anything. He just lowered his head, thinking about something. When the room quieted down, he suddenly laughed wildly. We're so stupid, he said. These words were obviously directed at the woman beside him. We've been used as stones to explore the way. Huh, both of us are stones to explore the way. The man laughed loudly. 2 streams of blood flowed from his nose into his mouth, dyeing his teeth red. His eyes became crazy. If possible, he would probably bite the person closest to him to vent his anger. When they were in the forest, if they felt that there might be danger, they would throw a stone to see if there was anything in front of them that could threaten them. If there was, all the danger would be borne by the stone that was thrown out first. Now, the crazy man understood the situation they were in. Since the people who were ranked higher than them had been in the drumming tribe, they must have also had their eyes on the Yanjiao tribe. However, the other party had never appeared. Since they didn't appear, they must have sensed danger. However, they didn't say anything and just watched the two of them come to explore. As for those who were more ambitious, they were hiding behind the scenes and watching. Not long ago, the wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe who got on the boat said that 3 people disappeared on the way here. The 2 siblings and their father were never found. Did you do it? Xiao Xian asked. The crazy laughter stopped abruptly. You wanted to change into their appearance, but their father recognized you, so you killed another one. However, you also found that if you changed into the appearance of the Yanjiao tribesmen, you would be easily recognized. That's why you targeted the wanderers outside the Yanjiao tribe, Xiao Xian said. Looking at the two people who were silent for a few seconds and struggling to explain themselves, Xiao Xian whispered something to Ao and left the room. These two people might not know who stole the drumming tribe shaman's things that night, but judging from their reactions, they must have killed the wanderers of the Yanjiao tribe. Ao would not let them go. Not long after, the two bodies were moved out of the cabin and thrown into the river. In this area, there were many carnivorous fishes with sharp teeth. The fleet continued to move forward. The people in the tribe didn't care about the two missing people. Many people didn't even know that two people were missing on one of the boats. Even the wanderers didn't mention the two people who were missing. It seemed that nothing had happened, but those who were observant could find that the guards on every ship of the Flaming Horns tribe were much stricter, and they were watching people more closely. The fleet had been sailing along the planned waterway to the old haunt. However, they couldn't go directly to the old haunt. Therefore, they had to go by land. The boats couldn't be used anymore, but they couldn't just throw them away either. Sell them? That was not necessary. In the end, they followed Xiao Xian's suggestion and built carriages. They used the good wood they brought back from hunting, so they couldn't waste it. They dismantled the planks that could be used on the boats and rebuilt them into four-wheeled carriages or multi-wheeled carriages. They didn't need to be too complicated, as long as they were stable. Besides, it would take more time to build something complicated, so the tribe couldn't stay in the same place for too long. After Xiao Xian drew the structure diagram, he asked the people who had participated in the shipbuilding of the tribe to continue to build the carriages. After the experience of shipbuilding, it was easier for these people to work together. They had the skills, so they didn't need to say too much. Before the carriages were built, the team wouldn't continue to move forward. The place that Xiao Xian chose to stay was surrounded by mountains and forests. There were very few tribes. If it were a small group of wanderers or a small group of travelers, they would probably be too scared to sleep in such a wild mountain. However, for the people of the Flaming Horns tribe, this was nothing at all. They scrambled to plunder in the surrounding mountains, scrambling to hunt those strong beasts that seemed to have more meat. Especially those ferocious beasts, which were released to hunt, directly scared away the beasts in the surrounding mountains. For several days, the warriors had to go farther to hunt. The Yanjiao tribe is really amazing. In the place where the wanderers were, he sighed with emotion. He saw a bear as tall as two people running down the mountain in the distance, as if it was running for its life. It seemed to be extremely terrified, as if it was avoiding its natural predator. It wanted to escape from this place, but not long after, it was easily pounced on by a wolf. Soon, it stopped breathing and was dragged back by the wolf to become food for the tribesmen. The performance of the Yanjiao tribe also gave the wanderers a boost. The more powerful the tribe was, the safer the wanderers who depended on it would be. At least they were less likely to become food because of the tribe's famine. Looking at the warriors' momentum of clearing the mountains and forests, it shouldn't be a famine, right? The wanderers thought. At the beginning of the shipbuilding, because the technicians were not familiar with it, they destroyed a lot of wood. However, as long as they were instructed properly, they could quickly learn. These carriages were certainly not as big as the boats, and the number of carriages was limited. They changed the boats into carriages and removed the planks one by one. At the beginning, when they saw the boats being dismantled, they were more or less reluctant. However, when they saw the carriages with wheels, their reluctance disappeared. 5 days later, 7 carriages were built. They were the kind that could shelter the wind and rain. The carriages were between 10 and 20 meters long. They looked like public buses. There were no horses here, so the ferocious beasts in the tribe were responsible for pulling the carriages. Other than Cha-Cha and Gui's white bird, the others were all used as coachmen to pull the carriage. Chapter 242. The shaman was in the smallest carriage this time. Only he and the Guize were in it. Of course, the fire seed was also in it. The smallest carriage was also the most important one. The warriors around the carriage were the elite forces of the tribe. As for the one pulling the carriage, it was the alligator-snapping turtle. Although it was usually too lazy to move, it was not necessarily slower than people on land. Even if it was not as fast as the others, as long as it could keep up with the speed of the team, it would be enough. The number of carriages was limited, so it was impossible for everyone to get in like the fleet. Only the old, the weak, the sick, and the pregnant got in the carriage. The warriors of the tribe did not mean to get in the carriage. Those who had not awakened their totemic power also tried to walk outside and only got in the carriage when they were tired. Many children, as long as they could walk, would be carried by their fathers. If they could not walk, they would get in the carriage to rest. When they were well rested, they would be carried down to follow them. They felt that this was also a kind of exercise. They could not be too weak. Especially after seeing the living conditions of wanderers and slaves, their desire to become stronger became stronger. In the past, they just followed the ancestral teachings and moved closer to the strong. But now, they were doing this for survival and for the whole tribe. The people of the Yanjiao tribe were like this, so the wanderers could not treat themselves as special cases. As long as they could walk, they would not get in the carriage. If they got in the carriage, they would be despised and even abandoned by the tribe. It was not easy to have such a hope to live a new life. Of course, they could not be cowards at this time. In the plan, the route on land bypassed several big tribes. At this time, the Yanjiao tribe did not want to have conflicts with the big tribes. According to the shaman, they should go back to the old haunt and ignite the fire seed first. Therefore, the tribe went to places with few people. They passed by many tribes and almost fought several times. However, when they saw the ferocious beasts pulling the carriages of the Yanjiao tribe, they hesitated. Finally, they just watched the team pass by their door. The shaman and the chief also restrained the people in the team. All actions should be taken according to the command. Don't act recklessly. The detour was not only to avoid unnecessary conflicts, but also to find food. The best way to find food was to go to places with fewer people and mountains and rivers. As long as the danger was within the acceptable range, they could go there. Go over the mountains. Can't go over the mountains. Who said that? It was not convenient to pull the cart, but they could carry it. A few soldiers could carry a cart full of people. The Yanjiao tribe was completely sweeping through the area. They swept all the way to the old haunt. No one knew how many of the wild beasts in the mountains were eaten. Wherever they passed, people and beasts were frightened. The mentality of the people in the team was also gradually changing. When they were on the other side of the river, other than staying in the tribe, they were always on guard when they went out. They wanted to minimize their presence, but here, it was the opposite. When they encountered trouble, those who didn't have eyes and came looking for trouble, or those who were sent by others to probe would use the most violent and direct method to tell those who were scheming behind their backs to put away their claws. Otherwise, they would be chopped off without mercy. Who knew how much blood was left behind along the way? However, there were also some travel teams that deliberately followed behind the Yanjiao tribe. Because of this, no wild beasts dared to attack them. As long as those travel teams didn't have any bad intentions, the shaman and the chief wouldn't care too much. They could even collect protection fees. I feel that we're almost at the old haunt. In the cart that was most tightly surrounded, the shaman looked at the dancing fire in front of him and said excitedly. How many years had it been? What would the old haunt look like? The shaman looked at the dancing fire and gradually became absent-minded. Outside, Xiao Xian looked around at the empty grassland. The soldiers who went out to hunt had already returned, but they looked quite depressed. There were many plants around, but few wild beasts. The food they found was not enough for them. Even if they could last for today, what about tomorrow? Maybe there would be fewer wild beasts tomorrow. What would they eat then? They thought that wild beasts were easy to get hungry, so they didn't like it. Now even the wild beasts were almost gone. Chief, what should we do? Kiki picked up a wild rabbit in his hand and shook it. He was very depressed. Tua dragged a snake as thick as an arm back listlessly. This snake was not enough for him. Grumble, the input couldn't catch up with the output. Many soldiers' stomachs were already growling. Ao didn't know what to do, so he didn't answer immediately. Let's go and trade for some food. We're not far from the Lu tribe. They have many wild beasts. I'll take some people to trade with them for some wild beasts. If we go further, we won't find much food unless we reach the old haunt. It's definitely not enough for the team. Xiao Xian said. Originally, most of the people here were rearing animals and farming. Moreover, there were very few mountains on this route. Even if there were, they were all low mountains. There weren't many large wild beasts. It was very difficult to hunt enough food. Ao had learned about the Lu tribe from Xiao Xian's records, so he naturally knew a little about it. Ao had a good impression of this tribe. They reared wild beasts to make a living. They were good people in the central region. Such a tribe was indeed worth trading with. After thinking about it, Ao nodded and agreed with Xiao Xian's suggestion. The team couldn't continue to wait here. Xiao Xian estimated the team's speed and agreed to meet Ao at a place. Then they took some water moonstones. Xiao Xian called 50 soldiers and left for the Lu tribe. After leaving for 2 years, they met the people of the Lu tribe again. The man named Yan Jiu still remembered Xiao Xian. Hearing that Xiao Xian wanted to trade for some wild beasts, Yan Jiu enthusiastically took Xiao Xian and the others to the tribe's farm to choose. Although they had heard Xiao Xian talk about the wild beasts of the Lu tribe, Kiki and the others were still surprised when they saw it with their own eyes. Seeing the reactions of Kiki and the others, Yan Jiu showed a proud expression, and started to boast about all kinds of animals in his tribe. For the soldiers who had been eating wild beasts for several days, when they saw those fat birds like forest raccoons, they almost drooled and stared at them. Those were all meat, all meat. What do you think? What do you want? Yan Jiu asked Xiao Xian. He could see that in this trade, although Xiao Xian was young, he was the one who made the decisions. Xian, that one. We must take the fattest one. Kiki hurriedly pointed out to Xiao Xian. Which one do you like? I'll ask someone to bring it out for you. Yan Jiu said with a smile. Xiao Xian pointed out some beasts, and the others couldn't help but pick some beasts by themselves. While Kiki and the others were choosing, Xiao Xian calculated the number of water moonstones they could exchange for. Fortunately, the value of water moonstones in the central region increased, so they could exchange for more beasts. When they finished, Yan Jiu calculated the number of wild beasts twice in his mind and said, 250, right? Xiao Xian said. Yes. Xiao Xian took out the corresponding water moonstones and handed them to Yan Jiu. He looked at the 5 wild beasts that had been tied together, and saw someone coming with a wooden cart. He said, we don't need the cart. After confirming that Xiao Xian really didn't need the wooden cart, Yan Jiu took out more than 10 eggs and said, since you don't need us to transport them, I'll give you some more eggs. The eggs were covered with rattan nets, and Xiao Xian asked Cha-Cha to carry them. As for the rest of the wild beasts, each of the soldiers had 5. Yan Jiu's face twitched when he saw that Xiao Xian and the others could still run and jump while carrying 5 birds each. After sending Xiao Xian and the others out of the tribe, Yan Jiu said with a smile, if you need any wild beasts in the future, just ask someone to tell me, and I'll send them to you. Okay, we'll be back to our homeland soon. When we settle down, we'll walk around more often. Xiao Xian turned around and left the Lu tribe with Kiki and the others, carrying the wild beasts they got from the trade. Where will you settle down? Yan Jiu asked. The ferocious beasts' mountain forest. Yan Jiu stood there, rubbing his frozen face. Yan Jiu couldn't help but pick his ears, and asked the person next to him who was also stunned, where did he say they would settle down in the future? The person next to Yan Jiu swallowed his saliva and stammered, it seems to be, the ferocious beasts' mountain forest near the Wuxia tribe. The ferocious beasts' mountain forest was a dangerous place, not to mention the Wuxia tribe. How could they settle down there? And they said, they would walk around more often. Who dared to do that? Chapter 243. With the food brought back by Xiao Xian from the Lu tribe, the tribe was in a much better condition. Apart from sleeping and resting, the tribe was always on the road. The tribes who saw this team, as well as the travelers, were very curious about the Yanjiao tribe. It was not that there had never been such a large-scale migration, but many people had never seen such a powerful tribe. The Yanjiao tribe's name gradually spread through the traveling team. In the middle of the team, the shaman was in the carriage. The shaman sat by the small fire pit, counting the days in his mind. The fire in the fire pit was much bigger than before, and it was still jumping happily. However, if you looked carefully, you would find that there seemed to be a faint barrier around the fire pit. The shaman had specially made this barrier. According to the animal skin scroll left by the ancestors, if the fire seed was not dealt with by other tribes, there would be a competition between the fire seeds, and the loser would be suppressed temporarily. This was a situation that no tribe wanted to see, because it would affect the tribe's morale. The Yanjiao tribe did not want to attract hatred as soon as they came out. This was also why, except for the travelers of the Yanjiao tribe, few people could feel the fire seed here. And those who guessed that there was a fire seed here and had evil intentions were all defeated by the Yanjiao warriors in the most direct and violent way. On the way from the drumming tribe, the team took in more than 200 travelers from the tribe, both on the water and on the land. There were also some travelers from other tribes. Xiao Xian counted the number of travelers, and now there were almost 200 people. Seeing that the destination was getting closer and closer, the team began to become restless. The restless ones were not the original group of people of the Flaming Horns tribe, but the wanderers of the tribe and other tribes who joined later. These days, these travelers all knew the destination of the Yanjiao tribe. As soon as they heard that it was the ferocious beasts' mountain forest, some people began to be afraid. Especially in the past few days, the Yanjiao warriors who were guarding the wanderers would always talk about the ferocious beasts. They talked about who had been eaten by the beasts, who had almost been bitten to death by the beasts, and so on. The injured warriors would also talk about the dangerous situation they had been in when they encountered the beasts. The warriors of the Yanjiao tribe could talk about ferocious beasts for hundreds of days without repeating themselves. After all, they had been in contact with ferocious beasts since they were very young. Originally, the topic of ferocious beasts made these wanderers worried. Listening to it was like listening to a scary ghost story. Every day, different people talked about the same topic. It was impossible to pretend that they didn't hear it. Therefore, they had more and more thoughts in their minds. That night, the team stayed at the foot of a mountain for the night. He was sleeping in a daze when he heard the person next to him wake him up in a low voice. What? Are you under attack? He woke up with a start. There was nothing he could do about it. This was the wilderness, and he had heard too many stories about ferocious beasts recently. The first thing that came to his mind when he was woken up was a ferocious beast. He was about to say something, but his mouth was covered by someone. The person who woke him up was someone who had a good relationship with him in the Longboat tribe. They were very familiar with Yan Ji and the others. Look over there. The person who woke He up said in a low voice. The fire around them had almost burned out. The flame was much smaller. Only those who were close to the fire could see it clearly. A little farther away, there was only a vague shadow. Hier and the others were a little far from the fire, but they could see the figures over there. Several figures got up from the ground, carrying animal skin bags and a few belongings. They tiptoed out of the crowd. There were also hunting warriors around. When they noticed these people, they asked, "What are you doing?" Those people were scared when they were called, but they still answered in a trembling voice, "I drank too much water. I want to relieve myself." The warrior who was on night watch yawned and said carelessly, "Come back quickly. Don't go far." "Hey! I'll come back when I'm done. I won't go far." Those wanderers hurriedly promised. After those people left, Hier was about to talk to his companions who had woken up, but he saw several people get up and leave with the excuse that they had diarrhea. The warrior who was on night watch just muttered, "So troublesome." Then he said no more. "What should we do?" "Hier, shall we also leave?" the person next to him asked. Those who left decided to leave because they had heard a lot about the ferocious beasts and knew that the destination of the Yanjiao tribe was the ferocious beast mountain forest. Compared with the ferocious beast mountain forest, they were more willing to go to other tribes. Some wanderers had always wanted to change places because of great oppression in their original living places. This time, they came to the Yanjiao tribe. They thought that they would have a better life, but they did not expect that they would face a more severe situation. Fortunately, they had seen a lot of good places along the way in the Yanjiao tribe. The living conditions of several tribes were in line with their standards and within their plans. The wanderers did not understand the Yanjiao tribe. They thought that going to the ferocious beast mountain forest was a suicidal act. A tribe with such great potential like yours would definitely be able to gain a firm foothold in a safe place. Compared to some of the smaller tribes in the central region, your tribe would not be worse. Although you have fewer people, in 10 or 20 years, your population would probably double. Why would you want to seek your own death? Even if there were a few ferocious beasts in the team, so what? It was the ferocious beast mountain forest. There were more than millions of ferocious beasts there. Even the big tribes in the central region were not willing to go there. They just wanted to live a better life, not die with the Yanjiao tribe. 2 days ago, some people left, but not many. Tonight, maybe everyone realized that they would soon arrive at the ferocious beast mountain forest. This might be their last chance to leave. If the Yanjiao people found that too many people left tomorrow, would they be angry? Hier, what do you think? Should we leave too? Tonight may be our last chance. If we miss this chance, we won't be able to escape when we enter the ferocious beast mountain forest. Someone asked Hier. Didn't the Yanjiao tribe say that they could not hunt many beasts along the way? Even many large beasts in the forest were scared away by the Yanjiao tribe's beasts. The rest of the beasts were eaten by the Yanjiao warriors. Those beasts had been cleaned up. At least, they would not go back in a short time. Therefore, as long as they followed the path of the Yanjiao tribe, they would be less likely to encounter those dangerous beasts. If they went back now, they would be safe. In the past 2 days, some of them had specially collected the feces of the ferocious beasts so that they could use the feces of the ferocious beasts to intimidate the ferocious beasts in the forest. Only then would they be safer. Seeing Hier did not answer, the man poked Hier, "Are you going or not?" Hier gritted his teeth and lay down again. He whispered, "No. I don't want to go back. And I believe in Yanji and the others." The surrounding people were silent, and then they lay down one by one. "Forget it, let's bet." After making the decision, they lay down again. But they could not fall asleep. Listening to the sounds of those beasts leaving, they opened their eyes wide in a daze. In the dark night, where the firelight could not reach, and where the moonlight was blocked, the night watchman leaned against the trees. They looked at those who were running away from the team with a sneer, but did not stop them. The next day, the team continued their journey. The wanderers had decreased by nearly 1/3. It was obvious at a glance. However, the Yanjiao tribe did not seem to know, and did not mention it. Strangely, no one told the wanderers the story of the ferocious beasts. Some clever wanderers realized that this was a test by the Yanjiao tribe. When Yanji and the others saw Hier and the others, their tense faces relaxed. Fortunately, they were still there. It was the shaman's idea to test the wanderers. He had arranged it in advance, and no one dared to say anything. Even Yanji and the others could only worry in their hearts when they saw the restless wanderers. Xiao Xian took a piece of animal skin full of words and got on the shaman's carriage. More than 70 wanderers left, 6 of them are Yanjiao wanderers. Xiao Xian handed the animal skin roll to the shaman and said, "The wanderers of other tribes were not so bad, but the warriors of the Yanjiao tribe treated them very well. Although they did not completely trust them, they helped them a lot. 2 days ago, when they were short of food, some warriors even saved their own food for them. However, some of these wanderers still left. Fortunately, there were not many of them." After the shaman took the animal skin scroll, he didn't read it. Instead, he closed his eyes. There was no disappointment or sadness on his face. However, those who were familiar with the shaman knew that he was the most terrifying when he was expressionless. Even if the 2 team leaders were here, they would tremble in fear. Xiao Xian did not interrupt the shaman's silence, and quietly waited for him to make a decision. After a long while, the shaman opened his eyes and said, "If you leave, don't come back." Although his words were gentle, there was an irrefutable murderous aura in them. Xiao Xian had already expected the shaman's answer, so he nodded, "I know." He wrote down the names of those who left and those who stayed. There was only one chance, and the trust of the Yanjiao shaman would only come once. The people who followed him all thought that in the Yanjiao tribe, the chief was in charge. This was the management style of many tribes, and they thought that the shaman was just an assistant in management. However, those who had lived in the Yanjiao tribe since childhood knew that the shaman had an absolute position in the tribe. Since the shaman had made such a decision, no matter Chief Ao or others, they would not have any objection. After getting out of the carriage, Xiao Xian looked at the sky. The weather is not very good. After leaving the shaman, Xiao Xian went to another carriage, in which sat the women who could not move or had not awakened their totemic power. Even if they could not move, they were not idle in the carriage. They had brought some tools, and some animal skins that the warriors had obtained after hunting. They were here to sew and mend, and to make some leather boots. Putting down the animal skins in a few rolls of twine, Xiao Xian said to them, "Please make some long leather boots. Children also need them." Although they did not understand why, they did not ask. They just followed Xiao Xian's instructions. Chapter 244. After passing through a plain, the team finally saw the endless green area in the distance. At the border of the sky and the earth, there was a long stretch of green. Farther away, there were some tall mountains. Before they walked in, the tribal warriors' eyes lit up. The familiar feeling made their bodies instantly enter a state of excitement, as if they were back to the dangerous mountain forest on the other side of the river. It was the kind of feeling that made one's hair stand on end. It was not fear, but excitement that made one want to tremble. Of course, they were so excited because of the fire seed. As they got closer and closer to the old place, the totem power in the warriors' bodies was also surging, as if it was going to rush out. Is that the ferocious beast mountain forest? The people in the team looked at the green area in the distance with mixed feelings. The Yanjiao people were excited, but the wanderers were worried and confused. Thud! Thud, thud, it began to rain, and the rain quickly turned from light to heavy. Bean-sized raindrops fell from the sky. The dry ground was covered with dust because of the falling raindrops, and the smell of soil was everywhere. The sky quickly became gloomy, and the dark clouds were like a giant hand that was about to hit directly. In the eyes of the wanderers, the green area in the distance was like a big mouth full of sharp teeth, waiting for the prey to come to the door. Looking up, they saw the thick clouds as if they were going to suffocate them. In front of them was the famous ferocious beast mountain forest. The washing of the rain extinguished the fire in the hearts of some wanderers, but they still stood there, just because of the anger in their hearts. They did not want to retreat or go back. The team had become solemn at some point. The discussion and laughter had already stopped. The mood of the wanderers was also affected by the solemn atmosphere, and the anxiety in their hearts was miraculously calmed down. At this time, as long as they could walk, they got off the car, including those who were sick, disabled, and old. They were helped down by others. The shaman waved his hand, refused Guizei's help, and jumped out of the car. He was wearing the new leather boots that were sewn during the rainy season this year. The gray fur turned into mud the moment it landed. The shaman looked at the mountain forest with deep eyes. After nearly 1,000 years, how many generations had passed? Finally, they came back here. But the people who came back were not the same as before. "Let's go," Wu said. The ferocious beasts mountain forest was very large. The route taken by the Yanjiao team was not in the direction of the Wuxia tribe. There was still some distance between here and the Wuxia tribe, so they didn't see anyone from the Wuxia tribe. There was no need for Xiao Xian to lead the way. Every Yanjiao tribesman could rely on their intuition to find the right direction. Stepping into the forest, the sound of the rain hitting the leaves covered the sounds of the surrounding creatures. The various smells in the air were washed away by the rain again and again. The heavy rain showed no signs of stopping. In the rain, visibility was reduced. Many people couldn't see the situation in the forest in the distance, but it didn't matter. They just had to follow the people in front of them. Inside the carriage where the fire seed was placed, the faint barrier around the fire pit had been removed by the shaman. The deterrence of the fire seed immediately spread throughout the forest. Tap, 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 on the soft ground piled up with countless insects' bodies, leaves, and dust, the warriors carried their animal skin bags and carried their weapons, walking in the muddy forest. Every step they took, they left a deep footprint on the ground. The rain from the sky rushed through the dense leaves and dripped to the ground. Soon the footprints were filled with water. Unless they couldn't keep up with the pace and couldn't feel well, the tribesmen would continue to walk in the team. Some children were led by their parents, and with every step they took, all sorts of rotting substances and mud on the ground would rub their ankles. Fortunately, the boots were long, and even some of the worms in the mud would only bite on the skin. They used their knives to cut off the thin insects with suckers on their feet and continued to walk forward. In the forest, there were many wild animals and ferocious beasts. Even with the deterrence of the fire seed, they couldn't completely avoid them. Those bold and fearless beasts in the forest could suddenly come out from the dense forest at any time. Behind the luxuriant trees, in the caves on the mountainside, lurking in the swamps, and so on, there were cold and bloodthirsty eyes staring at the team that suddenly entered the forest. In the past, if it were other people who entered the forest, they definitely wouldn't miss this delicious meal. However, this team was too special. There was the fire seed that they were afraid of, ferocious beasts like them, and a group of totem warriors with great strength. The smart ferocious beasts hid and continued to watch. Those that rushed out were looking for death. The swinging of the beast's tail brought up rainwater that swept around like bullets, but was blocked by the warriors in the tribe who guarded around the team. The people in the advance group went to deal with the ferocious beasts that rushed out. In the forest, except for the roars of the ferocious beasts, the other warriors didn't speak. The silent killing was unprecedentedly violent and ferocious. The splashing blood of the beasts mixed with the rainwater and dripped on the ground, dyeing the path that everyone walked on red and filling up every dent in the footprints. No one in the team made a sound, nor did they stop. When the ferocious beasts rushed out, naturally there would be people to resist them. What they had to do was to continue to walk in that direction. If the wanderers who followed them didn't want to be left behind, they would probably fall to the ground and their legs would be soft. Maybe because of the heavy and solemn atmosphere in the team, when they saw the ferocious beasts rushing out of the forest, they wanted to scream, but they couldn't make a sound, as if they were strangled by the neck. The silent group unswervingly walked in that direction, as if they were on a pilgrimage. Xiao Xian put away his knife and didn't care about the ferocious beast that had been cut down on the ground. The other warriors also didn't care about it. They were like sacrifices, the sacrifices that the Yanjiao tribe returned to the old land. The heavy rain lasted for a long time. Xiao Xian had already cut down more than 10 ferocious beasts with the other warriors. Fortunately, they were not in the depths of the ferocious beast forest. There were few ferocious beasts here, and they were not particularly powerful. Xiao Xian threw his animal skin coat on the car, bare-chested, and let the rain wash over his body. There were many people who did the same as Xiao Xian. Everyone had the same totem pattern on their bodies. It was unknown when the totem pattern appeared on every awakened warrior's body, and on the wanderers of the tribe, there were also faint patterns. At the same time, in the old land of the Yanjiao tribe, a team of the Wuxia tribe was resting there. Every once in a while, a team from their tribe would come here. This was the shaman's idea. The chief didn't agree before, but after being persuaded by the shaman several times, he finally agreed. But the chief no longer led the team himself. Now the people of the Wuxia tribe had no fear of this ruined land. The more they came here, the braver they became. They didn't find a place to hide from the rain, so they just stayed here and waited for the rain to stop before going back. A group of people used the stones of the ruins as stools, and some people directly sat on the collapsed stone pillar that had been cut into several pieces. They talked and laughed, and when they were bored, they poked the carved patterns on the stone pillar with their stone knives. "Ah, the rain seems to be lighter," someone said. "Is it going to stop?" The thick clouds in the sky were quickly dispersing. Yang Guang's light shone through the clouds, dazzling their eyes. The rain hadn't completely stopped, but it seemed that it would stop soon. Just as they were laughing, everyone suddenly heard a crackling sound. It sounded like the sound of burning firewood in a bonfire. Someone lit the bonfire at this time. A man of the Wuxia tribe pointed to a direction with a frightened face. "Fire! There's fire!" The others looked in the direction he pointed. They saw a spark-like light spot in the middle of the pit that had been dug. Then, with the light spot as the center, 6 fire lines extended outwards. A huge sense of panic struck their hearts. Looking at the fire lines on the ground that were about to spread to his feet, a warrior of the Wuxia tribe turned around and ran, shouting, go back to the tribe quickly." Before the rain stopped completely, they ran away in a panic. They suddenly remembered those who were almost killed in the beginning. Leave here." In panic, they even felt that the raindrops were like poisonous insects biting them. Chapter 245. Not long after the Wuxia people left, the Yanjiao people came to this place. However, the boundary stones engraved with patterns that had once been placed there were either no longer in their original places, or they had been smashed and hacked. The damage was quite serious, and there were even traces of burning. It was most likely done by the Wuxia people. Looking up, they didn't see the tall stone pillar above the forest. Xiao Xian suddenly had an ominous feeling. He was afraid that the fire pit was also in trouble. Not only Xiao Xian, but the shaman also had a premonition. His hand holding the walking stick was shaking. The burning line of fire had already reached the feet of the Yanjiao people. They didn't feel scared or horrified. They only felt a strong sense of familiarity, as if they had finally found a place to belong. The totems in their minds were all active and very energetic. Just stepping on this land made them tremble, as if they were filled with infinite power. The old place. This was the old place. Everyone's eyes were full of expectation. Almost there, almost there. A few more steps, just a few more steps. However, when they walked through the forest and came to the ruins, they were all stunned by the scene in front of them. Apart from the natural destruction, the collapsed house had been destroyed twice, thrice, or even more times by man. It was completely deformed. A huge hole had been dug out in the middle of the house. The fallen stone pillar was telling the people who came here what it had experienced. The entire ruins were filled with desolation. No matter how bright Yangguang was, it couldn't dispel the sadness. This is, the old place. Ao's voice was unsteady. How could it be like this? The Yanjiao people were a little confused when they saw this scene. The shaman hurried a few steps forward, as if he wanted to get closer and see the situation more clearly. His footsteps were somewhat staggered, and his hand that was holding the walking stick tightly clenched. The bulging meridians on the back of his hand throbbed, and because of the various emotions that arose from seeing this scene, his body could not help but tremble. How many years had it been? The ancestors of Yanjiao had waited for so many years to come back. They didn't expect to see such a scene. In addition to anger, there was also deep sorrow. Staring at the shattered stones, the shaman felt like his eyes were being pricked by needles. When Xiao Xian returned from this place, he had drawn the situation of the old haunt on a wu roll and showed it to the shaman. Therefore, in the whole tribe, other than Xiao Xian, the shaman was the most familiar with the old place. The shaman knew exactly where the house was, where the stone pillars were, and where the fire pit was. 2 years ago, although this place was still in ruins, with the desolation of a hero past his prime, it was far from being as dilapidated as it was now. Even the fire pit had been dug out. How preposterous! What a bastard! He raised his hand that was as old as tree bark and gently pressed it against his chest. Pain. It was a pain that he had never experienced before. From the day he was born, to the day he took over the position of a shaman, until now, the old man had never felt this way. There wasn't a single drop of blood, but the pain reached all the way to the bone. The old man was too emotional. Xiao Xian was worried that the shaman would suffer too much, so he hurried over to support him. Seeing the shaman's eyes fixed on the collapsed stone pillar that had been chopped into pieces, Xiao Xian said, "Now that we're back, let's build a taller one. I still remember the patterns carved on the stone pillars. When the time comes, we'll copy the patterns of our ancestors." Of course, these words were only a little comforting. The important thing was that this place had been destroyed again and again. Even if 90% of these things were deducted, it was enough to start a tribal war. This was a provocation, a trampling on the tribe's totem. How could the people of the Yanjiao tribe tolerate this? Ao clenched his fists in anger, and unrestrained anger radiated from this tribal chief. Who did this? Come out. Several roars, like cannonballs exploded in this forest, frightening many birds and animals. After calming down, Ao's mind became more flexible, and soon he thought of the person who might have caused all this. Xiao Xian had told them about the situation and what had happened here. The Wanshe tribe. Ao gritted his teeth as he stroked the engraved stones. As a person who had been exposed to stone tools since childhood, he already knew the marks on the stone tools. Only a small part of the marks on the stone were made a long time ago, and the rest, half of them were made between 1 to 2 years ago. The other half was very new, very new. The time when the carver carved the stone must have been before their arrival. There were many traces of human activities around, which showed that the people who destroyed their old haunt had just left. Stroking the stone, the sadness in Ao's eyes gradually disappeared, replaced by a rapidly accumulated fierce light, and his eyes became red with anger. They haven't gone far. I'll go after them. Ta couldn't help but say. I'll go too. Snow can help us find those people. Gigu said. Snow was Gigu's white falcon, which played a great role in scouting and finding prey. Take the others with you. They have a keen sense of smell. Xiao Xian said. Now that the rain had stopped, the smell wouldn't be completely washed away by the rain. Ao stood up, looked at the angry Yanjiao people behind him, and then turned his eyes to the shaman. The shaman didn't say anything. He just moved his hand away from his chest, and then waved it out heavily. Needless to say, everyone already knew the shaman's attitude. He let Ao and Xiao Xian do whatever they wanted. What about here? Ao asked. Don't worry. This is the old haunt. The old haunt of Yanjiao. The shaman's words were like a heavy stone falling on everyone's heart. Because it was the old haunt, because the fire seed and the fire vein were still there, only the Yanjiao people would be protected. Understood. Ao pointed at the ferocious beasts, indicating that they should go. He also pointed at 30 people. Xiao Xian and Caesar took the lead. Except for the turtle pulling the fire seed's carriage, the others all left. Whoosh, the people pointed at by Ao took off their animal skin bags, picked up their weapons, and quickly swept through the grass, chasing the ferocious beasts. In the forest, the people running met some ferocious beasts, and the originally concentrated group was scattered. A warrior of Wuxia was separated from his companions. Because he was too tired, he fell to the ground, his heart beating wildly, and his body trembling. He opened his mouth wide to breathe, and looked back from time to time, his eyes full of fear. Quack, quack, the sound came, and the warrior sitting on the ground bounced up from the ground, as if he had been stabbed by a nail, and started to run. Behind him, 5 carnivorous birds shouted and chased. They were very fast, and they were very familiar with the forest, running as fast as the people in front of them. Hearing the approaching footsteps and cries, the running warrior was desperate. He was the only one here. If he fought against the 5 birds alone, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. He closed his eyes hard, and when he opened them again, he clenched the knife in his hand, ready to turn around and fight. When the Wuxia warrior turned around and waved his saber, intending to fight desperately, he found that the 5 carnivorous birds, who had been chasing him, all stopped abruptly, and the muddy water splashed on the Wuxia warrior's body. Before the soldiers of Wuxia attacked, the 5 birds ran away as if they were running for their lives. They didn't even make a sound. Wuxia's soldiers stood there, holding their swords. They stared at the 5 fleeing figures, panting heavily. Just when he thought he had temporarily saved his life, he heard the tapping sound again. It sounded similar to the footsteps of those carnivorous birds, but this time, it was faster. Why did those usually arrogant carnivorous birds leave as if they were fleeing? Was it because of him? An even greater sense of panic struck. He changed the direction of his escape and ran away from the sound of footsteps. But this time, the pursuers were much more powerful than the ones before. Tap. 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 Every sound of footsteps behind him was like thunder in his heart. He didn't even look back to see who was chasing him. He just ran away. In less than 2 minutes, a bird's head hit the running man like a hoe. The man was knocked down to the ground. There was a bloody hole in the back of his neck, and blood was gushing out. Mai, who followed closely behind the forest Rakos, also arrived. No matter whether the man was dead or not, he killed him with his knife. Go on. Mai patted the head of the forest Rakos and said. It had planned to chase the birds to have a good meal, but after hearing Mai's words, it had to give up the delicious food for the time being. It was not in a hurry. There would be plenty of time in the future. Similar scenes were happening everywhere in the forest. This time, except for Xiao Xian, who was an intermediate totem warrior, the other 30 people were all senior totem warriors. In the sky, Cha-Cha and the white falcon were flying. In the forest, several ferocious beasts were leading people to chase the people of the Wuxia tribe. As long as they were still in the forest, Ao would not let any of them go. At the same time, in the Wuxia tribe, the Wuxia shaman rushed into the room of the Wuxia chief, Bian, who was having a good time. "Chief, the fire seed has changed." Seeing the shaman more panicked than last time, Bian was even more dissatisfied. In the past 2 years, the shaman had become nervous. He always felt there was a threat in the forest, but every time he sent people there, they found nothing unusual. Bian had always thought it was caused by the old guys in the central region who didn't like him, and he was also angry. Now looking at the shaman, Bian was surprised and doubtful. He planned to take a group of people to have a look. It would be better if they could find some evidence and throw it on the old guys. Didn't they say they wouldn't initiate a war? What about now? It would be better if they could blackmail them. Bian was not afraid of offending people. Anyway, this was his territory. He kicked the door open and called people. He planned to take a walk in the forest. You're tuning into the Hanli's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.